Hello, everybody, and welcome to a watch-along edition of the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, your home for Pittsburgh Penguins news and analysis. We got a big game on deck tonight. Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the Minnesota Wild in the finale for Marc-Andre Fleury when it comes to playing professional hockey in the city of Pittsburgh. Now, there is obviously one small chance that he has another game in him, but the Minnesota Wild would have to make the Stanley Cup final. And so, too, would the Pittsburgh Penguins. We got a great game on deck. They're singing the anthems right now. Pens, obviously, biggest storyline coming into this one is Marc-Andre Fleury, but right behind that is the lineup for the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is going to be an interesting cast of characters for the Pittsburgh Penguins as they try to end their current 5-game losing skid. We saw hints of this yesterday by Mike Sullivan at Penguins practice, but we're seeing it in action tonight. Penguins go with a completely jumbled lineup here, putting Evgeni Malkin on the Penguins' top forward lineup right next to Sidney Crosby and Rickard Rakell. Behind them, three lines that really we haven't seen, I don't think, once before for any of them. O'Connor, Eller, and Acciari are the second line for the Penguins, at least on paper. Michael Bunting is with Cody Glass and Valtteri Puustinen. Anthony Beauvillier is with Kevin Hayes and Jesse Puljujärvi. So a lot of moving and shaking for the Penguins within that forward group. Defense-wise, they made a couple of adjustments, and by a couple, I mean they flip-flopped two players, Matt Grzelcyk and Marcus Pettersson, once again switching from first and second pairings. Matt Grzelcyk will be back with Kris Letang, where he started the season, and Marcus Pettersson will be alongside Erik Karlsson. The old Blomqvist is in net for the Penguins, which means we're looking at a flower versus flower matchup. Marc-Andre Fleury in his final trip to Pittsburgh against Yoel Blomqvist, the young 22-year-old, getting ready for his 6th career start. We threw a question in the chat early because it is Marc-Andre Fleury's day. Wanted to know, what is your favorite memory of Marc-Andre Fleury with the Pittsburgh Penguins? Thor Strong Cards threw in here, said one of my favorite Fleury memories was when he tried to fight Jordan Binnington. We talked about that earlier today on the Tip of the Ice-Burgh as the game is underway. Sidney Crosby wins the first faceoff forward, and we'll see what this Crosby and Malkin line looks like. Oh, great opportunity right off the bat, but Malkin misses the net wide. This is going to be an interesting matchup, an interesting game, because I really can't remember. It might have happened once or twice because it's been 20 years, but I can't remember a time in which Sidney Crosby and Evgeni Malkin started a game on the same line. Dan Bilesma liked to go to it a lot. Mike Johnston went to it a decent amount in his couple of seasons in Pittsburgh, but Mike Sullivan has, for his 10 years here, been very adamant that those two should be kept separate unless you're in desperate situations. Well, losers of 5 straight, apparently this is what they consider a desperate situation here in Game 11 of the season. So that line gets a quick opportunity early, and they get the dump and change, and they get the change in, and here comes that second line featuring Noel Acciari. But yeah, Fleury trying to fight Binnington, that was always an interesting one. Fleury trying to fight Peter Budaj was an interesting one. In both instances, great opportunity there for the Minnesota Wild. Ryan Hartman just misses the net wide, but it looks like the Minnesota Wild are controlling a little bit of the pace of play here, back and forth to start the first minute and some change. But him trying to fight is one of the main storylines of his 21-year NHL career. Him trying to score a goal is the other one. Two things that he has not accomplished. Who knows? Maybe he will here in his final season. Sarah says, I loved it when he hung Rusty's clothing and when he taped up all of Crosby's uniform and pads, etc. Hilarious. I wonder what he will do after or before the game. Funny enough, he fell victim to a prank before this game, and that was at the hands of another former Penguin, that being Max Talbot. Did the same exact thing that Marc-Andre Fleury did to Sidney Crosby, taped up his gear before this game, actually before this morning's morning skate, I believe is when it was, but hilarious social video out there from the Minnesota Wild. So obviously a lot of talk. Here's a odd man rush here for, I believe it looks like number 13, Marco Rossi. Is that? No, that's Yakov Trenin who got in there. Net is knocked off its moorings by Jack St. Ivany, but it looks like the speed is becoming an issue early for the Penguins against the Minnesota Wild. This Wild team is very good defensively. So for a Penguins team that, to be fair, most of their issues is defense. Forward-wise, outside of Sidney Crosby, they've gotten a lot of contributions throughout the lineup. So we'll have to see if they're able to continue to keep that offensive firepower up against a really good, stout 5-1-2 Minnesota Wild team. We're just 2 minutes into this one. Couple chances back and forth. The shots on goal meter counts 1-0 in favor of the Minnesota Wild, but it's just getting started here in Pittsburgh. Let's jump over to, let me make sure I try to get this fixed here. There we go. Get the scoreboard right before we keep going here. But the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to try to get off this 5-game losing streak. That is obviously the biggest thing surrounding them outside of the Fleury circus this past couple of days is that they're losing a lot of hockey games. And yeah, you can have the photo ops, you can have the pictures, you can have all the interviews and stuff, but at the end of the day, you need to win the hockey game. We talked about that. There's a nice deflection on net and a good save there by Blomqvist. That was Matt Grzelcyk in front of the net. You got to tie up the opponent's stick. Here's an opportunity for Crosby trying to get control of the puck. He's not able to. It looks like Rickard Rakell is going to jump in and try to do that on his own. Crosby takes it to the point. He misses Erik Karlsson, and the puck goes all the way down to Blomqvist. But through all of this, by the way, that's where I was going. Early start, got a late start on the live stream here because my internet decided that it wanted to restart at 6:59, which is phenomenal. But no, it's not a good time for the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. They need this victory to kind of get back on the horse after a road trip in which they went 0-3-1, did not look good in the latter half of those games, especially against Edmonton, which is the last time we saw Yoel Blomqvist making 46 saves on 50 shots. But this is a game that they need to kind of put their foot down, come back, and start the second 10 games of the season off on the right foot, because the first 10, 3-6-1 is just not going to get it done. Let's see. Earthquake says, my favorite Fleury moment is definitely the cup-winning saves against Zetterberg and then Lidstrom. That's the memorial one. Like, that's going to be the one that he is immortalized for, because, I mean, for one, it's already immortalized as a mural in PPG Paints Arena, but two, that moment is undoubtedly the highlight of his career. He's had a bunch of them, and we've talked about them. I'm sure we'll continue to talk about them tonight, but that is the moment that you shut down a future Hall of Famer in the waning moments of Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. That's one that's going to live in the annals of history forever, so I love that. Brandon Rickner bringing us back to reality, stopping the fluff here, saying Karlsson already with a brutal blown assignment. There's another opportunity on net for the Minnesota Wild. Penguins getting hemmed in their own zone a little bit. Every time they get it out, it seems like they get one shot on, and then the Minnesota Wild are turning the puck back and getting back into the zone. So that might be the first shot on Marc-Andre Fleury, and that comes from the red line from Sidney Crosby. You got to get a little bit more on him. You got to get a lot more on him, to be completely honest, because of the last two games. They didn't look horrible in Vancouver for the majority of that second period until, the midway point. They looked good in the first half, and then they just kind of self-destructed, gave up those 4 unanswered goals, and didn't look like they had much pushback left. So we'll see what they have in store tonight against the Minnesota Wild. Earthquake says, I got Rickard Rakell scoring early. I'd like to see it. I mean, playing with Crosby and Malkin, nice save made there by Yoel Blomqvist, and it looks like we should be at the first commercial break here. 5-1, the shots on goal in favor of the Minnesota Wild. Not a good start for the Penguins defensively, but then again, they've been one of the worst defensive teams in the National Hockey League to start this season. I'd like to see Rickard Rakell score a goal early. Now, I will tell you, if you're tuning in for the first time live, the only other time we did this, the Penguins lost 6-0. So I'm hoping this isn't, a cursed thing, because I put a lot of work into these live streams. It's a lot of work to be on here for 3 hours. If they lose 6-0 again, we might be done. We might be calling it quits 11 games into the season, even though we have one scheduled for this Thursday as well. Let's go to Brandon's question here. As we're going to watch the game, we're going to answer questions. If you're new to this, we'll have a conversation. So get in the comment section. Let us know, what you're thinking, what your thoughts are on the Pittsburgh Penguins through 10 games, what your thoughts are in this game as it progresses here, as we're just over 6 minutes in, and the Penguins are down 5-1 in shots on goal. They haven't been able to really get sustained zone time, and there's a turnover by Jack St. Ivany. Trennan takes the puck behind the net. He's looking to wheel it to Marcus Foligno. Foligno sends it back to Trennan. Trennan getting bumped up by Ryan Graves. That's something I've seen a little bit more of out of Graves. Not enough to kind of make a pronounced exclamation point on it, but it seems like he's been a little bit more physical this year than he was last year. A low bar, I know, but a nice little tiny added piece to his game that'll help him get back to where the Penguins wanted him to be when he signed last year. Here comes that second line. I'm going to be mixing and matching what line is which, because outside of the Crosby line, it's kind of hard to figure it out. But Noel Acciari, that's how we're going to remember it. Noel Acciari is the second liner for the Penguins right now, as they get their offensive zone shift and offensive zone sequence rolling here with Eller and Drew O'Connor. But when do I think Graves is going to be back with Letang? St. Ivany seems like a defenseman whisperer. I don't know if we're going to see Graves get back with Letang anytime soon, as Grzelcyk winds up from the right half wall and takes a shot right into Fleury's pads. That one's going to be saved 10 times out of 10. But as far as Graves going back with Letang, I think that they are willing and they are wanting, as we got to stop it here, potentially a penalty. But they want Ryan Graves to get a lot of time on that third pairing to really make sure that he is back to where he needs to be before they start moving him up and down the lineup, giving him more responsibility. He's been better this season than he was last season. And again, I'll say it every day of the week. It's a low bar, I know, but I just don't think that you're going to see him move up with Kris Letang until it gets to maybe, December, and he's continuing to play a little bit better and the need continues to arise. I mean, Letang playing with Grzelcyk has not been impressive at all. I think it's better them than Pettersson and Letang, because I don't want to see Matt Grzelcyk and Erik Karlsson. That duo just did not look good. And it's starting to feel like last year, where Graves started with Letang. They thought Pettersson and Karlsson was the better duo. It was. And then Graves was so bad that you needed to try something, and it just got worse whenever you put Graves with Erik Karlsson. That's kind of what we've seen from Matt Grzelcyk. So is there going to be a time where Mike Sullivan says enough is enough? Graves has looked a little bit better. Let's see what he can do with Kris Letang? Potentially, but I think that's still pretty far off. St. Ivany, calling him a defenseman whisperer is a very, very nice way to put it, because, I mean, he's good. Let's just put it that way. He shouldn't be tasked with fixing other defensemen. He shouldn't. Now, his game and Graves' game matches up very well, which is why I think that's a good pairing and has been a pretty decent pairing for the Penguins, at least as good as it's gotten on one of the worst defensive teams in hockey this year. But I do think that for St. Ivany, you don't want to have him moving with players just to try to fix other players at this stage of his career. You want him to kind of acclimate to being a National Hockey League defenseman, and putting that responsibility of him fixing or whispering to other defensemen, trying to get them figured out. I think that's a little bit too much. Earthquake Jake said the same exact thing. Maybe you try putting Graves on that first pairing. Mitch wants to know, what do I think of Sully putting Malkin on the first line with Crosby and Rakell? I said it earlier today, and it was the kind of the emphasis of the entire episode. It's desperation time already. I mean, this Penguins team has lost 5 games in a row. They've been outscored 22-10 in those 5 games. Sidney Crosby has 1 goal through the first 10 games of the season. I mean, if you're a pace person, then that's an 8-goal pace for Sidney Crosby. Now, is that going to persist? No, it's not going to. But you need to get him started. And, we haven't talked about it yet, but Brian Rust is going to be out week to week. Rust is the best forward that they have as far as winger. He's the best option they have as a scoring winger. Him going out week to week is a major blow to an already weak top line. So do I like loading up on the top line? Maybe for a game or two if you can get Crosby going. But there's no way that's sustainable for a team to try to do that and make the postseason. Penguins end up getting a power play. I see it's jumped up on the scoreboard that I have up here. John Merrill gets a cross-checking minor. So the Penguins get the first opportunity on the man advantage. But I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it's something that you can rock with and expect to be kind of the end-all, be-all, the cure of all for the Pittsburgh Penguins, especially when you look at that, that bottom 9. That's what you're rocking with there. You're rocking with a top line and then a bottom 9, a bunch of third lines. I like O'Connor. I like Eller. I like what Achari's brought this year, but those guys aren't second liners, right? You're not counting on them to be second liners, but that's what Sullivan's trying to do. He's been very open about, switching up lines and changing up the lineup when things don't work. He's had a quick trigger this season, and this is something that he's gone to much earlier than I expected to see. Jessica Lynn says, can we get a Flower goalie goal tonight? As fun as that would be, because that's something that he's wanted for his entire career, and to get it in Pittsburgh would be a special moment. This is a Penguin show. I'd prefer to not see the Minnesota Wild scoring an empty net goal tonight. I know the Penguins, we kind of all have to accept the fact that they're probably in a rebuilding mode, even though they're not going to be ones to admit that they're in a rebuilding mode. Nice opportunity there for Malkin, but it's blocked down by the Minnesota Wild, and that puck comes out to center ice. Kris Letang goes back to get it here on this first power play. Not a lot doing on the first man advantage of the game, and it looks like they're turning the lines over. Maybe Matt Grzelcyk bounced out there, who is the top of the second power play unit. Yep, that is exactly who's out there, but he turns the puck over, and it gets sent down the full length of the ice. So I'm hoping we don't see a goalie goal for Marc-Andre Fleury tonight. I hope he gets one by the end of his career, but not in Pittsburgh. Not in Pittsburgh. Not tonight. We need, as Earthquake Jake says, not tonight. Penguins, they need a win. They need to get off their schneid here. Some Yum says, what is the point of Gino and Sid being together when we know it's not long-term? To get Sid going, because he's been bad. He's been very bad this season. 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 points in 10 games, which on the surface, 7 points in 10 games isn't horrible. But when you look at the fact that he has 1 goal, it is a power play overtime goal in the 4-on-3, which, yeah, good moment. You get the standings point. Thanks, Sid. But outside of that, has not done very much of anything. Speaking of hasn't done much of anything, Michael Bunting continues to be unimpressive, turns the puck over, and here comes Matthew Boldy for the Minnesota Wild. Shorthanded chance, and Blomqvist shuts that down. Penguins re-get possession, but the power play has concluded. So 0-for-1 on the man advantage on the night for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Not an impressive power play. Seems like that's starting to fade back into a lull. We'll see if they're able to bounce back at some point in this game. If not, hopefully some point in this homestand. Nice to see Cody Glass back out on the ice as my internet continues to get a little choppy, as now I'm looking at a 720p version of this Pittsburgh Penguins hockey game. So I might be relying on the comment section and the scoreboard up here to tell me what's going on, as I only see facts, or I only see figures, no numbers. But I think that's Kirill Kaprizov who's taking the puck out over the red line and into the Penguins zone. But why would he do it if it's only a short-term thing? Because you need to kickstart Crosby. You need something to happen right to kickstart Crosby. And it looks like the Penguins are going to be back on the man advantage. Cody Glass grabbing at his nose. Might be a high sticking minor here on Marco Rossi. And the Penguins get that second opportunity of the day. We'll see if it gets any better. And they're showing a replay now. Beautiful save by Joel Blomqvist on Zuccarello. Nice to see Blommer continue to be this good. I mean, that's what they've been really all season long. It's been preseason, or not preseason, I should say. It's been first period, great goaltending from the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, outside of the 3 games that we've seen Tristan Jarry play, he's kind of been the opposite. But anytime Ned's been in net, anytime Blomqvist has been in net, the Penguins have gotten stellar goaltending in the first period. And I should have looked up the splits, and I'll do that and be better with that for Thursday. But their first period save percentages and their first period goals saved above expected, if I can find that, I'm sure they are among the tops in the league, because both Ned and Blomqvist have been extremely good in the first period to this point of the season. Let's see if there's any other question here. Earthquake Jake wants to know, and honestly, if I had the answer, I might have been hired by the Pittsburgh Penguins at this point. Earthquake Jake says, what's the deal with Michael Bunting? You would think after being scratched, he would pull it together. That giveaway was weak. That giveaway was awful. That is not what you want to see to this point of the season. The fact that he got that healthy scratch. He bounced back in Calgary. I thought he looked like he had a lot more energy. He was trying to be kind of that pest that the Penguins want him to be and really need him to be. I mean, that's when he's at his best, is when he's playing that style of game, when he's drawing penalties, when he's getting in the front of the net, when he's getting in the goalie's eyesight. He wasn't that before the healthy scratch. After the healthy scratch, you've seen it a little bit more, but it still feels like, you know, he has the magnet turned the wrong way on his stick. The puck keeps getting away from him when it shouldn't get away from him. So you're hoping that, you know, eventually he bounces back, because the Penguins, they were taking a bet that Michael Bunting was going to be a guy that come in here and help be one of their better top 6 forwards. And instead, he's a guy who 10 games in has already been a healthy scratch and has already been demoted to, I mean, if you look at the lines tonight on paper, a 4th line guy. So not what you want to see if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins. You know, how do you get it fixed? They tried the healthy scratch. They've tried to demote him. At this point, the player needs to get better, or the player needs to get scratched again. Penguins win that face-off clean. It comes the whole way down into the defensive zone. So not what you want to see to start the second power play as well. But they are going to need him, especially if Brian Rust's injuries are going to continue to be a problem this season. I mean, Rusty already missed the first 2 games of the season with a lower body injury, week to week now, and the way it looked, again, maybe it was just the way it looked, but it did not look good. I think week to week is, I believe Rob Rossi said this, the best you could hope for considering what it looked like on Saturday night in Vancouver. Let's take a break on answering questions for the moment. We'll get back to those after this power play, but I want to keep an eye on this power play here as it's once again looking like a rough man advantage for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Kris Letang not happy with a couple of calls, but the Penguins' first unit looks like they're coming off the ice 40 seconds into this second man advantage. I mean, on the bright side, because of these power plays, Joel Blomqvist has gotten a breather. It was 5 shots to 1 at about the 14-minute mark. It's still 5 shots to 3 in favor of Minnesota, so that's 5 minutes of playing time that Joel Blomqvist didn't have to see a shot. So, I mean, that's the best way to play defense, I guess. Just continue to draw penalties and be up a man the entire game. Cameraman gets confused a little bit, but the puck comes out to center ice. Penguins, 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining on their second power play of the game. Only 3 shots on goal to this point in the game. Evgeni Malkin tries to slice and dice through the blue line. Instead, he turns the puck over, and that's going to do it for the first unit. Matt Grzelcyk back, takes the puck, coming up the zone. Finds a guy on the wing. That's Sidney Crosby. Crosby sends it to the opposite side. Valtteri Pustin is in on the puck first. He sends it around. Crosby takes it up to the point over to Grzelcyk. Grzelcyk finds Pustin, who's on his off wing. He stops up, looking for a play. Ends up going back to Grzelcyk. Grzelcyk over to Pustin. He has a lane to shoot. If he takes it, he shoots it. Save, scores. Never mind. Valtteri Pustin gets his first of the season. And again, my feed went very blurry right before that goal was scored, so I did not see whether or not it was a save, but instead, it is a power play goal for Valtteri Pustin. And just like that, we are already off to a better start than we had the entire time we did this watch along the first time around, because that was a 6-0 loss. At the very least, we're on the scoreboard here. A good job by Pustin to hold on to the puck, readjust, send the puck on net, and that hit off of Jacob Middleton's stick. That was redirected by the defender. It ends up going through Fleury's 5-hole, and the Penguins get the 1-0 lead. That is huge for them. A team that has gotten off to some rough starts in the first period. It appeared like they were getting off to another rough start. They get a couple of power play opportunities, and they get one past Marc-Andre Fleury. A good job there by Valtteri Pustin to readjust his angle, make sure he's not just shooting it into the defender's padding, and get it past that defender. Gets a good bounce off of the stick of Jacob Middleton. And just like that, Valtteri Pustin is on the scoreboard. A good toe drag there. They're showing the replay once again, and it just barely glanced Middleton's stick. But that was enough to redirect the puck, to confuse Marc-Andre Fleury, and to put the Pittsburgh Penguins out in front 1-0. So let's get back into these questions, because I want to make sure that you guys are involved in this conversation. That's why I love doing these things, to kind of get the listener's perspective and how they're viewing the game and what they like to pay attention to, and kind of, more importantly, what they've paid attention to this entire season as we sit here with a 1-0 lead. That's going to be far offsides. Thank you very much to the linesman there. Tanger wants to know, is it just me or the Pens more snappy tonight? Like faster passes? I mean, they have to be, because you can't get much slower than they were in Edmonton. You can't get much slower when it comes to processing and building out these offensive zone rushes than they were in Vancouver. So it does look like, the home cooking has their legs going a little bit more. Maybe it's the line changes because Mike Sullivan continues to just switch things up, and people know, hey, if I don't perform, then I'm probably going to end up on the fourth line. My minutes are going to get slashed. My opportunities are going to go out the wayside, and you can only last so long before potentially you start seeing call-ups come from the American Hockey League level. Valtteri Pustin back into the own zone gets an opportunity for Letang, who can't beat Marc-Andre Fleury. He had a short size, small angle there. He tried to fit it in, and Marc-Andre Fleury was strong against the post. This is the third line. No, this is the fourth line now. Again, hard to keep track. Kevin Hayes with Jesse Puljujärvi, and a nice shot off the post from Kris Letang, maybe off the side of the net there. Wasn't really a good angle, but he almost sniped his old buddy, Marc-Andre Fleury. Penn's putting a little bit of pressure on here, but the puck comes out the other way. Shot on goal from Gaudreau, former Penguin, and Joel Blomqvist shuts that down. No rebound to be had. Love to see that from the young goaltender. So they do, Tanger, they do look a little bit faster. They do look a little bit better. The passes are a little bit more crisp today, but it is early, so you got to have that persist throughout the game. I like what I'm seeing so far, in that aspect, like you are as well. Alex says, would you rather have 2018? Wow, this is a great question. Would you rather have 2018 Greg McKegg or 2022 Brock McGinn on this current Penguins roster? Listen, as much as I love Kegger, give me Brock McGinn. Give me that Brock McGinn opportunity, because I thought that he had a lot more to give than he showed in that first season with the Penguins. He started off in a pretty good pace, and then he had so many injuries. I mean, he was out with an injury, and then I believe he got COVID, and then he was out with an injury once again. So if that's the year I'm thinking of, his first year in Pittsburgh, give me Brock McGinn. I think he had a lot more to give than he showed in his time in Pittsburgh. Let's go over to Evan with an Erik Karlsson question. What are your thoughts on Karlsson calling his play up to this point great? I think that was just bad PR. Great opportunity there, and snuffed out by Joel Blomqvist. Joel Eriksson Ek goes in there and gets the opportunity, and he's exchanging some pleasantries right now with Rickard Rakell post-whistle, but a good save made on Joel by Joel as Blomqvist gets the better of that interaction. Karlsson saying that he thinks his play up to this point great. I mean, do I agree with him? Clearly not. And I think an honest answer from him, he wouldn't agree with himself there. But at the same time, in some of these interviews, when games are going the way that they're going, when you're losing 5 straight games, they're just looking to get through it. They're not looking to really answer questions in an honest manner. Now, typically, Erik Karlsson is very eloquent, has long-winded answers. He didn't in that interview. It was, great. It was great, whatever. It reads as tone deaf. I understand that, but honestly, I think it was just him not wanting to answer questions and not really paying much mind to what the question being asked was, and not really wanting to give an answer. And sometimes professional athletes, that's the way it is. I mean, look at Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Sometimes these guys just don't want to answer the questions. It's a part of their job, but I'm sure it does get tiring at points, especially whenever you're having a rough start to the season like Karlsson is. So no, I wouldn't agree that it's great. That is for certain. But I don't think that that's that big of a deal. I mean, I think he knows that he's not playing up to standard. If he doesn't, I'm sure Mike Sullivan is telling him. I'm sure David Quinn is telling him, because there's no way in God's green earth that anybody is telling him that he's performing great or that he actually believes he's playing great to this point. So the fact that he said it in a press scrum, it is what it is. I mean, I'm sure the media members didn't appreciate that type of answer, but it's the one that he wanted to give that day. So I don't make a big deal out of something like that. Let's see. Any other questions? Brandon wants to know, if they lose tonight, do they start sending guys through waivers and cycling guys through Wilkes, or they just make these guys figure it out themselves? 10 games into the season, we're getting to that point where I don't think it's going to be a parade of people to waivers, but if there's somebody that is struggling more than others, I think you'll see that person get placed on waivers. I think at this point of the season, there are players in Wilkes-Barre that are performing well enough to get that opportunity, to warrant that opportunity. And I know some people aren't going to want to, hear this, but Sam Poulin has performed well to this point at the AHL level. So maybe he does get that opportunity. Now, does he come up and look like he's looked in those previous iterations, like he looked in the preseason, which is great AHL player, can't make the transition to the NHL? Maybe, but at this stage of the game, you've lost 5 straight. You're looking for answers. Maybe Poulin is an answer for the bottom 6, but at the same time, bottom 6 hasn't been their biggest issue. Bottom 6 hasn't been bad. Kevin Hayes has 3 goals. Lars Eller tied for the team lead with 4 goals. Drew O'Connor has looked good in the bottom 6 roles. Cody Glass doesn't have a goal to his name, but has looked pretty good. You're looking for more from the top line, which is why we've reached that desperation mode. And you see Mike Sullivan putting Sidney Crosby and Evgeni Malkin on the same line to start a game and to play a game together. So, I mean, the fact that we're in game 11, we're at that point, that tells you that maybe they do switch some things up. Maybe they do bring up somebody from the minors, but right now they'd have to be people that could fill those top line roles, because that's the roles that's struggling right now. I mean, you're not going to replace Crosby on that top line. You just aren't. You're not going to replace Malkin as a top 6 guy, but guys like Michael Bunting dropping in the lineup, potentially drop him to a healthy scratch and give somebody else an opportunity. That's something that you could potentially see going forward. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Christopher, this is a good point. And this is a point that I've made a lot to people that don't follow the team as religiously, but check in and say, hey, what's going on with the Penguins? They got off to a bad start. Christopher says, did people forget this is a rebuilding season? Even Dubas said so at his press conference before the season started, that they weren't going to the playoffs. Now, I will say he didn't say that exactly. He has never once admitted that the team is in a rebuild, even though every move he made, and when I say every move he made, I mean every single, here's an opportunity for Crosby, soaring up the ice, and he just doesn't get all of that one. It looked like he had Marc-Andre Fleury fooled, but the puck is redirected by the Wild defenseman and comes out of the zone. This first line is buzzing right now. Malkin and Crosby looking like they're playing a game of shinny against some young kids as they keep bouncing up and down the ice. And Rickard Rakell's the perfect guy to put on that the ice with those guys, because if the puck comes to him, he can just grab it from any angle. And he obviously has the shot to finish if he gets those opportunities. So right now it's Crosby. Great shot and scores. Speaking of Rakell, I said he's the perfect guy to put on that line, and he's the perfect guy to beat Marc-Andre Fleury. It is 2-0. Pittsburgh Penguins. Rickard Rakell from Kris Letang, and I'll have to see who gets the secondary assist on that one. Maybe Sidney Crosby, which would be a sigh of relief, a breath of relief for the Penguins captain. Let's look at the replay here. Evgeni Malkin has the puck. It's a battle down low, him and Crosby. Crosby does get that out to Kris Letang, who sends it down to Rakell. So Sidney Crosby back on the score sheet for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Letang gets another assist, and Rickard Rakell a spinning shot, and he is now the sole possession leader of the Pittsburgh Penguins in goals this season, his 5th of the year, and the Penguins take a 2-0 lead with just about 4 minutes and 20 seconds left. That line looked, it looked really good there, and let's be honest, I'm not saying that Mike Sullivan putting that line together was a bad decision as far as I didn't think that line was going to perform poorly. I'm more intrigued to see how the bottom 9 performs outside of that over an extended period of time. But hey, early dividends for that one. You got to give credit to Mike Sullivan as he does get Crosby on the score sheet. Nice play made defensively there. Drew O'Connor coming back to take away a one-timer that was going to be in the slot. I'm sure Joe Blomqvist appreciates that. Haven't seen that type of defense very much this season. Penguins' second line right now trying to get the puck out. That's Eller, Achari, and Drew O'Connor. Again, I'm saying it and I'm repeating it just so I can start to get it in the back of my head, because all these lines are completely and entirely different. A nice opportunity there for Jacob Middleton. He goes forehand, backhand, and skies it up into the netting for a close of play. But yeah, Dubas never said it was a rebuild. He didn't. He said the goal is never to be a team that just sneaks into the playoffs. The goal is to be a competitor. The goal is to be a Stanley Cup, competitor, not a team that just sneaks into the playoffs and maybe gets in on the last day and does what the Washington Capitals did. That's not the goal. That's not what he's trying to build. That doesn't mean he won't be happy if it happens, right? He didn't trade the farm. He didn't tear it down to the studs. So they still want to see the Penguins make the playoffs. They still want them to be a playoff team. But that just means that he's going to make moves in accordance with a team that is rebuilding, right? He's going to say, hey, if the Stars can do it, the Stars can do it. That's great. But they have to earn the right to get help this year. They're not going to get help simply because they're the Penguins. They have to earn the right to get help, and that means they have to be in a top 3 position in the Metropolitan Division by around the trade deadline. Right now, they're not. They're in 7th in the Metropolitan Division. But it's the moves that he made that signals that, yeah, they're headed towards a rebuild. The rebuild has begun, right? You got 1-year deals for Grzelcyk. You got a 2-year deal for Sebastian Aho, but he didn't perform, so he got sent to the minors. A lot of 1-year deals, and that's a bad goal given up by Joe Blomqvist. You hate to see that one from the kid. Looked like he had the angle cut off, but there was just one little sliver of open, one little opening, and the Minnesota Wild cut the lead to 2-1. Let's see how this happened. First and foremost, the linesman gets in the way of a Ryan Graves clearing attempt. The Wild, they just get it low, and Blomqvist has to be able to seal that off. He's up against the post. The shot comes in right underneath his blocker, but above his padding, and that's a goal that you're going to want back every day of the week. You hate to see that for Joel Blomqvist. That's probably the weakest goal that he's given up to this point in his career, but still, Penguins have a 2-1 lead with just under 5 minutes to play. Just under 3 minutes to play in the first period of play. That's a tough one to swallow. Late in the first period, the Penguins hadn't controlled the entirety of the first, but they were able to get some saves from Blomqvist, and they were able to build that 2-goal lead like they did in Vancouver. And then a weak goal there just brings Minnesota right back into this one. If you could have gotten into the first intermission up 2-0, you probably could have stolen that momentum and gotten that rest and come out in the second period and built off of it. But that goal is going to keep Minnesota in this game. Jessica Lynn says it's hard to envision Crosby on a rebuilding team. Not saying you're incorrect at all, but it's a mental block. It's a mental block for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people say, hey, it's Crosby and the Penguins. They still have Malkin. They still have Letang. That means that they should not be rebuilding. Well, those players, save for Evgeni Malkin, who had 14 points in the first 10 games, those players haven't been performing to the level that would warrant that. I mean, Crosby to this point, certainly Kris Letang to this point, Erik Karlsson to this point, they just haven't performed up to snuff there. Now, is this a full-on rebuild? No. Is it going to be a full-on rebuild next year? Probably not. But once Evgeni Malkin retires following that season, I think you have a real serious question depending on how the rest of this season goes and how next season goes. And just like that, it's a tie game. Frederick Gaudreau able to beat Joel Blomqvist. What happened in the defensive zone there? It looked like Gaudreau had all the time in the world to just try to get that puck set up on a tee and puts it in the top corner. And just like that, just a couple minutes from 2-0. And all of a sudden, it is a tie game. This is exactly what happened I'm watching this goal. That's exactly what happened in Vancouver. And Matt Grzelcyk, just, what are we doing here? Rough for Grzelcyk. Hayes not able to get back and get possession of the puck before Frederick Gaudreau just tees it up right in front of the net, and he beats the old Blomqvist, who was not expecting to have to be in position that quickly. Frederick Gaudreau scores his first goal of the season. We're under 2 minutes remaining in the first period, and all of a sudden, we're tied up 2 apiece. Penguins against the Wild. Let's go to the next question here. Evan says Crosby already has 2 points. Did he get an assist on that? Let me look. He did get an assist on that Valtteri Puustinen goal. So there we go. 2 assists for Sidney Crosby. Thanks for keeping me straight, Evan. Do you think there has to be something to do with playing against a former teammate? They always get up for playing against Marc-Andre Fleury. That shot comes in, and Fleury's able to snag it. Nobody in front of the net, so that makes it a little bit harder to get it past him. That shot coming in from Erik Karlsson. Let's see. Anything else? Christopher says it's a short 1 to 2 year rebuild. No, it's not. Speaking of, people not accepting reality, this is going to be a long rebuild, guys. I mean, it's the price you pay for being good for 17 years, going to the playoffs 17 straight years. This is not going to be a short rebuild because the Penguins right now, yeah, they're getting some young players in the system. Guys like Ponomarev, guys like McGroarty, guys like Koivunen, guys like Owen Pickering, who's stepping up, goaltenders like Murashov and Blomqvist, who we're seeing here tonight. Yeah, they're good. That's not enough to be a young core that gets them back out of a rebuild that quickly, right? For it to be a 1 to 2 year rebuild, you have to get some luck. And we saw it happen with the New York Rangers. They were able to get the bingo balls to fall in the right way. They get Capo Caco. They get Alexis Lafreniere. They are also able to bring in, Artemi Panarin at the perfect time because they had enough space available to bring in a $10+ million player. He came in, and guess what? It was the perfect fit. Penguins brought in a $10 million player last year, and it didn't meet expectations. This year so far, it's far below expectations with Erik Karlsson. So for it to be a 1 to 2 year rebuild, and again, Christopher, I'm not going after you, but I think I've seen this sentiment around a lot of Penguins Twitter and the Penguins fan base. It's going to be a long time before that next iteration of competitive Penguins hockey comes around without guys like Crosby and Malkin. I think you have a small window here. I don't know why I said it like that. You have a small window here this year and next year with Malkin and with Crosby to potentially rekindle a little bit of magic. But at the end of the day, you're going to have a couple of years of bottoming out. And that's not what's going to happen here in the next week or next year or so. So I don't think you get to start until, far after Malkin's gone, Letang might be gone, and Crosby's gone. Obviously, you want them to start, but at the same time, I don't think that's what you're going to get. Lars Eller heads to the penalty box here, and Minnesota is going to be on the power play. I'm wondering what the call is on that one. Maybe an interference. Did it update on the scoreboard that we have here? They didn't put it up yet. 2 minutes for number 20. They didn't update what the penalty is, and I just missed it when they put it up on the screen. So 2 minute minor for something. for Lars Eller. I would guess interference because there was no elbow, there was no high stick. Maybe just a missed call. It didn't look like Eller was too happy about it. But 43 seconds remaining in this period. The Penguins need to get out of this tied. If they go out of this period down 1, they're going to be in a rough spot. Zuccarello's shot, that was wired past Joel Blomqvist. Luckily, that missed the net. I don't know if that hit something on the way or not, but Zuccarello winded that one up from the point. There was nobody in front of Blomqvist. Let's see. Rebound. Yeah, it went right off the crossbar. That is a close call for Joel Blomqvist and the Pittsburgh Penguins in this first period. Nice play made there by Drew O'Connor. Is that O'Connor? No, Cody Glass. And he gets that out of center and potentially out of harm's way. You got one more rush left for the Minnesota Wild here in that first period. Let's see what they can do with it. I believe that's Brock Faber carrying the puck up the ice. The stud defenseman for Minnesota takes it into the zone, sends it across to Matthew Boldy. Boldy finds Faber again, goes back up to Boldy. Boldy looking for some help. He's challenged by Cody Glass. He takes it down the zone. That puck is redirected and up and out of play. 4.8 seconds remaining. A good job there by the Penguins defensively to stay on their P's and Q's. Make sure there's no open looks in the final 10 seconds of the period. Still some work to be done, though. 4.8 seconds, 1:18 left on this power play. So there's going to be a little over a minute and 10 seconds left as the second period begins. Face-off is won. Kris Letang sends it down the length of the ice. And that is going to do it for the opening frame tonight. 2-2. Tie game. Pittsburgh Penguins took the 2-0 lead with a Valtteri Puustinen power play goal and a Rickard Rakell snipe on Marc-Andre Fleury. Penguins, however, let the Wild back into it with 2 quick goals and late in the first period. And we head into the first intermission tied 2 apiece. Minnesota Wild will have about a minute and 10 seconds, minute and 12 seconds, like I said earlier, on the man advantage to start the second period. Let's see what everybody's talking about this rebuild. RDP, 100% agree. You need to hit more for drafting players. They really haven't had draft picks a lot. I mean, this year, you like what you saw out of Harrison Brunick. I like the pick of Tanner Howe. Obviously, he didn't get to show as much as Harrison Brunick did due to a couple of injuries, but I like those 2 players. I like what I've seen out of Ville Koivunen at the AHL level this season. I like what we've seen out of Rutger McGroarty. I think that he's a player that you can expect to be back up at the NHL level at some point this season, making an impact. I like what he has to bring, and I like what his future looks like. But again, you're going to need more than just 5 or 6, unless all 5 or 6 of those players hit. And I think we've learned the lessons over the years that a lot of times you can miss as many as you hit in the NHL. Sometimes development just doesn't work out the way you planned it to. I mean, look at Sam Poulin. He was a first-round pick back in 2019, and he's played all of 6 NHL games. Now, of course, some things have happened to kind of derail his development path, but I think that kind of leads towards the point here is a lot of things can happen in each player's development path that could result in them not being that player that you drafted them to be. And you're going to need, if you want that rebuild to be 1 or 2 years, you would need all of these guys to all hit. And it doesn't happen very often. If it happens for the Penguins, great, but I certainly wouldn't put my money on it. Let's see what else. Christopher, I want to give you a chance to kind of rebut what I said. Says, I think 1 to 2 year rebuild because it gives Crosby his last year in the playoffs and then retire and everything gets torn down after that. Listen, it would be nice. Kyle Dubas isn't signed for 2 years. Kyle Dubas was signed for 6 years because he was assigned the kind of responsibility of shepherding in that next phase of Penguins hockey, right? Penguins have had 20 years of the Crosby era. They're trying to kind of prep for that next era by bringing Kyle Dubas. That's what he's tasked with. Unless they show him that they can be that type of team, they can be a Stanley Cup team, he's not going to trade first-round picks. He's not going to trade top prospects for players to help this team right now. In fact, he's going to do the opposite. A handful of these players that we see on the ice tonight could be trade bait by the time the deadline comes around. I just don't think that you're going to see a rebuild take place within 1 to 2 years, because as much as everybody wants to see Sidney Crosby lift the Stanley Cup for the 4th time in his career, they're not going to do it, they're not going to cut off their nose to spite their face. They're not going to do it and kind of force themselves into a even deeper and darker and longer rebuild after Crosby retires. Earthquake Jake says it's very embarrassing how the Penguins can't hold a lead. the fact that it happens so quickly, and I think that's what's the most worrisome about this team. It's something that we don't see very often or haven't seen very often from the Penguins through most of Crosby's career. It's not just you gave up one goal. That's a rough goal to give up for Blomqvist. You were hoping he makes the save, but hey, you're still up 2-1. It's that it seems like they get shell-shocked after that happens. Like, man, our 2-goal lead is now a 1-goal lead. And it feels like they tighten up and they give up those opportunities right after. The momentum shifts so much in the other direction. You need a stopper. You need somebody to come out and say, all right, we gave up that goal. Let's get the momentum back right now. Too often in this early portion of the season, have you seen that goal go in on the Penguins and they say, all right, we're just going to continue to not have opportunities. We're going to continue to not force the issue. We're going to continue to allow the other team to build on that momentum that they just created with that goal. That's what happened late in the first period. That's what happened in their last game against Vancouver, because one goal goes in and all of a sudden everybody lost their minds and you gave up 3 goals within a minute and 5 seconds. And all of them were on defensive breakdowns. We're on bad mental errors. We're on bad, turnovers. These are things that good teams don't do. And I think that's what we're getting at here is this team has lost 5 games in a row. They have 12 losing streaks of 3 or more games in the last 3 seasons. They're starting to become a very bad hockey team that with bad tendencies. And that's what they have been this season. That's what they've been, on that 5-game losing streak. And that's what they were late in that first period. Whenever you're up 2-0 with 5 minutes to go, there's no way, shape, or form that you should be 2-2 even at 2 going into the intermission. You hate to see it. Brian says, a vet team should, at the very least, be a smart, savvy team that plays a positionally responsible game. Why is this vet team chaos? A rebuild, sure, but can't they play like a team that's been there? They should. I don't have an answer for you on that one. But at the same time, Crosby's game has kind of fallen off in the defensive zone. I think part of that is because he's pushing so hard to try to make more of an impact on the offensive zone. I think you're seeing that from Erik Karlsson. I think you're seeing that from Kris Letang. And I think it's kind of hurting. Well, Matt Grzelcyk just hasn't performed well. I'm not going to say that anything Letang or Karlsson is doing is affecting Grzelcyk overly. I think Grzelcyk has his own part in that. I think it's affecting Marcus Pettersson, but he hasn't played his best. I think that this is just a team right now that's chasing their own tail, and they're getting into too many situations where it's costing them because the odd man rushes are ridiculous. Hanging your goalie out to dry the way that they've done for most of this season is ridiculous, especially in the first periods to start the game. It's weird because Minnesota, for large stretches of that period, controlled the pace of play. That was probably one of the best first periods we've seen the Penguins play over the last several weeks. Why? Because they didn't get caved in entirely. And that's not a good point to be at if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's see what Evan says. I actually think Grzelcyk could be worse than Ryan Graves right now. Right now, yes. Right now, I would say Ryan Graves is playing at a higher level than Matt Grzelcyk is for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And now part of that is his role's a little bit more sheltered. He's on the third pairing. He's with somebody that fits his style very well in Jack St. Ivany. I've said on countless occasions, I like what that duo and what that pairing does together. But at the same time, this is a Matt Grzelcyk who was a healthy scratch for a large portions of last season, was a healthy scratch in the playoffs for the Boston Bruins. You knew what you were getting. And again, for people that think this is a team that's trying to compete, they went out and got a guy who was a healthy scratch in the playoffs to put in their top 4 on the defense. That is the move of a team that is rebuilding, that is hoping that, hey, Matt Grzelcyk can come in, get his game back on track, make himself look like he did with Charlie McAvoy, and maybe a contending team sends us a 3rd-round pick for him at the deadline. That's what the Penguins are doing, and that's the way that Kyle Dubas operated this offseason. So that's the type of rebuild that they're in. But again, it's not a tear it down to the studs rebuild. They're going to give the Penguins some players like this on 1-year contracts that if it works out and you get into the playoffs, great, phenomenal. Let's take in that revenue from the playoffs. Let's take in and enjoy the moments from Crosby, but they're not going to trade first rounders. They're not going to give out the big multi-year contracts in free agency. That part of this contending window is closed, and it's long closed. And the point they're at now is we're going to get a bunch of veteran players that are going to need a second chance. They're going to sign a show me, prove it deal. And if they're good and we're not as a team, they're going to get traded at the deadline. That's simply where they're at. Let's go over to Brian's question. Says, is Mike Sullivan the coach you want in a rebuild? I don't want to disrespect him, but rightly or wrongly, he's known for not trusting young players. What say you? The weirdest thing is, it's not as much not trusting young players, but it's always been not trusting players that are defensively irresponsible. The problem with this year's team is the entire team is defensively irresponsible. So that's why we're seeing Mike Sullivan kind of out of his comfort zone and doing some things that we've never seen him do before. For example, we've never seen Mike Sullivan start Sidney Crosby and Evgeni Malkin on the same forward line at the beginning of a game. Sure, he's used them in situations late in games when you're down a goal or down 2 goals or when nothing's happening. That's when you see that happen. But we've never seen him start a game with those two on the same line. We're seeing that tonight. Are not a Mike Sullivan team anymore. I mean, they're not built like a Mike Sullivan team at the very least. So he's having to adapt a little bit. And I think because of that, is he the guy I want in a rebuild? You probably, again, that's tough because you've never seen him with a rebuilding team, at least not in Pittsburgh. You've never seen him with a team that's sole purpose is to kind of develop young players at the NHL level. It's always been develop at the AHL, and when they're primed and ready, then they'll come to the NHL to help a contending team. That's what Mike Sullivan has had for 10 years. This year's different. Later in the year, we'll get to see that. And I think that's when we get the answer to your question, Brian. What does it look like later in the season if they continue to lose and you have young players performing at the AHL level? If Vasily Ponomarev is having a heck of a year and the Penguins are still in dead last in the Metro, does Ponomarev get those opportunities to kind of build himself at the NHL level? Same thing goes for Koivunen. Same thing goes for Sam Poulin. If the Penguins are struggling, that's when we see, can Mike Sullivan be a head coach of a rebuilding team? That's what we're going to have to sit back, and that's what we're going to have to wait for. But as of right now, he is trying like heck to find combinations that'll work to make this team a team that can bounce back and get into a playoff picture by American Thanksgiving, by Christmas, and by the turn of the new year, which is really, I mean, at that point, if you're not in a playoff spot, it might already be too late. But we saw last season, they're going to hold on to every last thread if they're just hanging around those playoff spots. But we're going to take a quick break. I need to go freshen up my drink here and get ready for the second period of play. Stick around. Throw your questions in the stream below. Make sure you get all of your comments in. We'll address as many as humanly possible, but we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the second period, Penguins versus Wild, tie game. We'll see if the Pens can bounce back and get back on the right track. We'll be right back. Alrighty, welcome back to the tip of the iceberg watch along of the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Minnesota Wild. It is a 2-2 game following the first period of play. Goals for the Penguins coming from Valtteri Puustinen on the power play, his first of the season with a nice wrist shot goal. Rickard Rakell matches that with a top shelf shot, beating Marc-Andre Fleury. The Penguins went up 2-0 midway through the first period, but then Jacob Lauko beats Joel Blomqvist on the short side. Blomqvist had to seal that up. He wasn't able to, and Lauko just finds the littlest sliver of opening to beat Joel Blomqvist and get Minnesota on the board. Then just 55 seconds later, sound familiar? Sounds a little bit like Saturday. Frederick Gaudreau gets the opportunity in the slot. Penguins not able to get to him, as it's Matt Grzelcyk not knowing where he's at. He's kind of in no man's land there. And then Kevin Hayes just not able to get there in time before Frederick Gaudreau wires one past the Penguins netminder and tying this game up at 2 going into the first intermission. The Minnesota Wild have about a minute and 12 seconds left of power play time to start the second period of play. Before we continue answering all your questions, talking about all your comments, and just kind of, getting the vibe and the feel of the Penguins fan base right now on this Pittsburgh Penguins team, I do want to remind everybody that it is the month of October, which means it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we are proud at Tip of the Iceberg to partner with the Rangers Ed podcast and Little Ed's Workshop to raise money for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Head on over to the link in the description below to check out our men's and women's t-shirts, as well as our hoodies that say, "In October, hockey players wear pink," with our Tip of the Iceberg logo on it. 100% of the profits and proceeds from these shirts will be donated directly to breast cancer research and breast cancer awareness. So get your shirts today, as we have about a couple days left in the month of October. So keys to the second period here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. 1, it would be nice if you killed off that first power play. But 2, just kind of get into that offensive zone a little bit more. Get some sustained offensive zone time, as it looks like the players are back out on the ice. Marc-Andre Fleury dirtying up his crease, getting ready for the second frame in Pittsburgh, his finale in Pittsburgh. But I mean, you have to stay in that zone. You have to put some pressure on Marc-Andre Fleury. For a large portion of that first period, they just weren't able to sustain in zone time. Now they got some with those power play opportunities. They got a couple of opportunities there, but overall, I think what you saw is the Minnesota Wild dominating the zone time in that first period. So the Penguins need to play in the offensive zone a little bit more and just be better in front of your own net. Be better at keeping people out of that front of the net, in that rail, as Colby Armstrong calls it, between the dots and below the dots. That's where the Pittsburgh Penguins seem to always allow these opportunities. They need to be better in that area of the ice. And third and final, how about a Sidney Crosby goal? Already 2 assists in this game. Multi-point game. Nice to see that for Crosby, up to 9 on the season. Let's see him put a goal in behind Marc-Andre Fleury. He has 1 goal on the season, needs to get on the score sheet, especially if the Penguins are going to want to take this one from their old friend, Marc-Andre Fleury. Let's go to a couple questions before I want to have a discussion here about Bryan Rust and why, it's getting to a point here where he's got a track record, and I just can't ignore the track record anymore. Let's see what Brian has to say. Anybody have Erik Karlsson's cell number? I'd like to personally ask him to waive his no trade clause. I will even help him move. And I hate that. Yeah, everybody hates to move, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel if you're the one moving, because then you're usually in a new place, unless you're downsizing, which is never fun. But the process of moving, you're right, Brian, I agree. Not a fun thing. Erik Karlsson has, I believe, 2 years left on his contract off the top of my head, or he just has 1. Let me double check this. I don't want to speak out of the side of my mouth here. Yeah, so many sites. I got to remember which one is which. Erik Karlsson is in year 6 of 8. So yeah, he still has 2 more seasons left on that contract. $10 million cap hit against the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's a nice save made by Joel Blomqvist. Again, this year, you brought him in last year to contend. It didn't work out. You're going to give him the opportunity again this year, but if it doesn't work, and certainly if it continues at this level, you're going to start to look at maybe seeing if you want to move him. But again, who's going to take him, right? He can waive his no move clause all he wants. That's a $10 million cap hit for 2 more seasons, and a player that is playing, honestly, probably below a $5 million player right now. That's a nice shot block there by Ryan Graves as the Penguins try to kill off this early power play. 10 seconds remaining on the man advantage. Kirill Kaprizov, who's been great this season. I believe he has 15 points in 8 games. He has been as advertised as he's expected to be. Great opportunity there for Boldy on a cross-crease pass. Blomqvist read it well, gets in front of it, and the Penguins kill the penalty. But can they get the puck out of the zone? Minnesota Wild continuing that pressure. Boldy trying to find the puck. He's stripped of it from Ryan Graves. A good shift there from Ryan Graves on the penalty kill and then on the 5-on-5. But he does get caught up ice here, and here's a breakaway for Freddie Gaudreau. He comes in and he shoots and scores. So after a really solid start to that shift from Ryan Graves, he just gets caught up ice. The Penguins turn the puck over at the blue line, and all of a sudden, they're down 3-2 just 2 minutes into the second period of play. I'd like to see that play a little bit more. Where is his defense partner on that one? Because Graves stepped up, took the puck away from Matthew Boldy. That's a bad change by Jack St. Ivany. You just lose track of Freddie Gaudreau. The puck is turned over on the blue line. You got to get it deep. You can't turn the puck over in that area. And it's just bad timing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. St. Ivany's going to the bench. Gaudreau sneaks behind the defenders, and he gets in on a breakaway. Another odd man rush, surprise, surprise, allowed by the Pittsburgh Penguins. You hate to see that, especially after they did a good job killing that penalty to start the period. So now all of a sudden it is 3 unanswered goals, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are on their heels once again in this game. But yeah, Karlsson, I'm not sure who's going to want him if he's performing the way that he is, especially with a $10 million cap hit. Malkin comes in, not able to beat Fleury, but a great opportunity as he had the puck and Fleury didn't know where it was for a second, but he gets it back to Erik Karlsson. Karlsson looking for Malkin, and there's another turnover. That's seemed to be just a consistent for Erik Karlsson. He's just not been able to make those short passes over the stick in the offensive zone and the offensive blue line. That's happened a lot this season, and it's gone the other way for shorthanded chances or odd man rush chances more often than not. Doesn't there. The Penguins were able to get back on it. Jessica Lynn says, where's the defense? That's a good question. Jack St. Ivany had a bad change. That one, I know that a lot of people are going to look at it and say, man, Ryan Graves is the one that's chasing Freddie Gaudreau. He's the one that's behind him. Ryan Graves was maybe a little too far up in the zone, but one, it's a bad change, but 2, you also have to make sure that that puck doesn't get turned over at the offensive blue line. So that's as much on the forward as it is on the defense in that one. Earthquake Jake says, Sullivan was given more chances than Dan Biles. My Disco Dan never fell close to short of not making the playoffs. True, but I think that's also, and you have to look at it in the way of, 1, they barely missed. 2, this is not Sidney Crosby in his prime, and it's not Evgeni Malkin in his prime, and it's not Kris Letang in his prime. This is a very flawed team, and I think you saw for multiple seasons that he was getting no help. You know, could he have done better? Yes. I'm not going to sit here and say Mike Sullivan is kind of absolved of all of his sins that we've seen over the past couple of years, but him in the Hextall era, it was 2 people that did not philosophically agree on how to build this hockey team while they were trying to do it for 2 years, which is why they fell as fast as they did from the 2022 playoffs, where they should have beaten the New York Rangers, to missing the playoffs in these past 2 seasons. Minnesota Wild trying to get more opportunities here. I will say, of all the players on the ice tonight, Evgeni Malkin certainly has his legs. Maybe that 3-point game kind of woke him up. Maybe putting him up with Crosby woke him up. Maybe having him at wing has woken him up a little bit. But Evgeni Malkin is skating about as well as we've seen him skate all season long. Has it led to a goal on his end? Not particularly, but I mean, the Penguins, that line has a goal to their name with Rickard Rakell scoring that second goal of the game. So I like what I've seen from that top line. You just, again, this is what you need, or this is what the downfall is. You haven't seen a lot of grade A chances for any other forward line for the Pittsburgh Penguins to this point. That's the downfall of putting everything on the top line. We've said it with Edmonton for how many years? The reason that they couldn't get anywhere is because they continued to just put Draisaitl and McDavid on the top line. And while, yes, that line was a mismatch, and that line created night in and night out, the bottom 9 did nothing. Now, you're hoping that this bottom 9, which has been fairly decent to this point of the season, can do more than those bottom 9s of the Edmonton Oilers. But so far tonight, I haven't seen very much. except for maybe one shift from that second line of O'Connor, Achari, and Lars Eller. So it's been a lot of the first line creating for the Pittsburgh Penguins, not a whole lot from the rest of the lineup. And that's what you had to expect. Earthquake Jake says, Kevin Hayes is quiet in this game. I mean, yeah, he has been quiet. So is, Anthony Beauvillier. So has Michael Bunting. Valtteri Puustinen at 5-on-5 has been quiet. On the power play, he has a goal. That's great. Good to see a second unit. That's a great opportunity, great chance. And I don't know if Zuccarello just missed or if that was saved by Blomqvist. But that's what I was saying coming into this second period of play here. You can't give up those chances right atop the blue paint. And they did that just there to Matt Zuccarello. A couple players go down to the ice, so we're going to have a penalty here. Doesn't look like it. Nope, they're going to let him play on. So we'll have to watch and see. I believe they'll show a replay of that. We'll see if it was a tripping or not. That is an icing, though. So the Penguins get an offensive zone face-off. 14-10 remaining in the second period of play here. 20-10 are the shots on goal for the Minnesota Wild. The Penguins' defense continues to be a massive issue. Their forward core is struggling once again. And Zuccarello just missed the net. So, again, you got to shout out Matt Zuccarello for keeping the Penguins in it because Blomqvist was deep in his net. You never expect a guy to be that wide open in the slot, but he was. And he almost made the Pittsburgh Penguins pay. Crosby line is back out there again, him versus Marco Rossi in the offensive dot. Crosby wins the faceoff. It's a nice start there, but Rossi is able to take the puck away. Malkin steps up on him, but Rossi ends up taking the puck out of the zone and sending it deep behind the Penguins' net. Once again, the Penguins get that offensive zone faceoff. They get the win, and they're not able to accumulate anything out of it. So we'll see what they're able to do here as they have possession. Kris Letang waiting back. Waiting for the forwards to swing back into the defensive zone. Malkin's the first to do it. The other one is Raquel. Puck is sent up the ice, and Crosby just redirects it deep into the zone. Quickly brought out by the Minnesota Wild, and that was a failed break-in. Penguins forwards are just wholly unimpressive to this point of the game. Minnesota gets possession of the puck. Marcus Foligno dancing around with it. There's a turnover and an opportunity. Can Cody Glass get his first? No, he shoots it, and that one's saved by Marc-Andre Fleury. Nice quick little spurt there from Cody Glass as Jared Spurgeon, I believe, is the one that turned it over. Glass came in and just couldn't beat Fleury 5-hole. Tried to get him quickly, but Fleury's quick in his butterfly. Nice opportunity there. It's blocked around, and yes, Puljujärvi just couldn't get it past the sprawling defender. He had a wide open net. A good job by the defenseman who activated there. It looked like it might have been Jack St. Ivany on first glance. A little bit of life here from the Penguins' fourth line. They switch it over. Looks like Lars Eller in the second line is coming out now for the Pittsburgh Penguins, trying to build off that momentum a little bit. Brock Faber has other plans. He takes it into the offensive zone. Puck is turned over twice and back into Minnesota territory. It just continues to look like the Penguins are a little discombobulated when they get the puck. It looks like there's not very much calmness. It looks like, almost like the Joker in The Dark Knight. I don't know what to do with it if I catch it. That's kind of what the Penguins are looking like here when they have the puck in the offensive zone. Not really setting anything up. Let's see if they can do it here. Nope. Puck turned over. Lars Eller tried to bring it to the point. He switched with Marcus Pettersson, and then the puck is turned over. The Pens are just not creating anything whenever they're getting sustained zone time. And it's not very often that they're getting that sustained zone time. So that needs to change and change quickly here. They're only down one goal. So one shot gets them back into this game. We'll see what they're able to do. Anthony Beauvillier skates up the ice. Shows a little bit of speed. Comes down, shoots the puck, and that is redirected up and stays in play. I thought it was out of play for a second, but it must have not hit the netting. Beauvillier gets it back, sends it to Grzelcyk. Grzelcyk's shot is a mile wide. Kris Letang goes over to get it. Grzelcyk, another opportunity. He tries to feed Beauvillier. The pass is off. It's Mark, and it looks like another 2-on-1 for the Minnesota Wild. Eriksson comes in. His shot saved by Joel Blomqvist. No rebound as the Penguins are able to clear it. It's small stuff like that that continue to give up these odd man rushes. This is just not a good defensive team. You brought in David Quinn. You were hoping that he could fix the power play. That was going to be the main objective, even though he's a defensive coach. That was the biggest thing he needed to fix, was that power play, and the defense has just regressed to an incredible level. An incredible level. Here come the Wild once again. I mean, we're 10 minutes into this second period, and the Penguins, while they've gotten a couple of opportunities, it just feels like nothing is materializing to where they can actually get it past Marc-Andre Fleury. Some of those chances right in front of the net for Cody Glass, Fleury shut that away quickly. There was really no danger for Cody Glass there because he just wasn't able to beat Marc-Andre Fleury 5-hole. The good opportunity for Jesse Puljujarvi on the cross crease pass. That was the best chance I feel like they've gotten, and it was blocked. And even if it wasn't blocked, it looked like Fleury was sprawling out to make a patented Marc-Andre Fleury, let me get a bunch of snow on my jersey type of save. Crosby line gets a rare defensive zone faceoff. Able to get it up the ice. Sid has possession of the puck. He turns around, tries to send it to Malkin. It just goes through his legs, and here come the Minnesota Wild the other way. Good play by Erik Karlsson to pick that puck off, but then he passes it into no man's land, and it's turned back over. Minnesota Wild back in the offensive zone. I feel like a broken record here in the second period of play. Let's see what you guys are talking about here in the comment section as we look up, and another opportunity there for the Wild. Where's the puck? Blomqvist faded back into the zone. You'd like to see him get out there and get control of it, but that tells me that he might have lost sight of the puck, so he wasn't just going to stay out there. He wanted to make sure he was ready. Here's a chance on a 3-on-2, and Marcus Pettersson just shoots it right into the defender, Matt Zuccarello. We got a fight here. Brock Faber, the young defenseman for the Wild, going at it with Jack St. Ivany, a pair of young bucks going after it, and a pair of guys that we haven't seen fight very often at all. At least I wouldn't think that you'd see Brock Faber fighting at all, and certainly haven't seen Jack St. Ivany. I wonder what spurred this. We'll have to wait and see the replay. What started this up? Jack St. Ivany looks like he's got a little bit of cut and scratch from Brock Faber. His bucket's off. I'm interested to see what happened here. Usually games between the Wild and the Penguins do get a little hectic. Crosby took Faber down. Faber's holding on to Crosby, and Jack St. Ivany steps up. It's what you like to see. It's what you like to see from your young buck stepping up for your captain. We haven't seen nearly enough of that for Sidney Crosby over previous seasons, but Jack St. Ivany answers the bell. I don't know if there was anything malicious that you could say happened with Crosby, but there's a lot of frustration for the Penguins right now. Crosby getting frustrated and getting tangled up with a young buck like Brock Faber on the boards, and Jack St. Ivany saying, "You don't touch my captain." You like to see that from St. Ivany. One of the few positives to this point of the second period. Let's see. Earthquake Jake says, Kris Letang is on the Hall of Fame radar. He should be better. He should be. He should be. Everybody falls off. Letang is the one you would have think would fallen off last, right? Letang is the one that is in the best shape. Letang is the one that had kind of had a second half of the career resurgence in those first couple of years when Todd Reirden came back. He was playing really well defensively. And then last year, starts off playing better. Gets those extra penalty kill minutes, seems to be okay in those, falls off due to injury late in the season. We say, all right, well, if he's healthy to come back, then he should be exactly what he was at the beginning of the season. That hasn't happened. You would think that he would be better. He should be better. He needs to be better, because if he's not, again, I say this about Crosby. I say this about Karlsson. I say this about Kris Letang. Mind blown for a second. If they're not better, the Penguins aren't going anywhere. Their hopes are to make the playoffs this year. Those hopes are going to be dashed really quickly if Kris Letang and Erik Karlsson and Sidney Crosby continue to play the way they have through the first 10 games. Brian has a fun comment here. I haven't read through the whole thing, but I see the Malkin bingo thing. I watched a few of the Pens holiday videos on YouTube. Gino's bingo and Mike Lang's The Blessing kills me every time. They haven't made one of those holiday videos in a while. They haven't done a lot of things in a while. The end of In the Room was a sad day. They haven't done that. They didn't do it last season. They're not doing it again this season for some reason. Oh, now I see. They show the extended clip. Faber was going after Crosby, wanted a little piece of him. St. Ivany comes straight off the bench. I like that even more. St. Ivany said, oh, it's my shift? Okay, well, the shift's going to be about 2 seconds. Goes after Brock Faber, gets a couple scratches for his worth, and the Penguins are still not happy. Mike Sullivan on the bench barking at the officials. What's the call here? Is there a penalty on the ice? Crosby's over on the bench. Maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want a penalty for interference or for roughing for Brock Faber. John Hines has something to say about that. I'm intrigued to see. I would imagine it's just 2 5-minute majors here. They're giving Minnesota a power play, so they're going to call Jack St. Ivany for instigating a fight. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that, especially when you're stepping in for your captain like that. I don't like being punished with a 2-minute minor. I don't think, yeah. 9:21 to go. Penguins go to the penalty kill. I don't agree with that. I see why Mike Sullivan is pissed. Rightfully so. So was Marcus Pettersson. That's a guy you don't see yelling very often, but he was not happy about that call. Yeah, don't like that one at all. So the Penguins got to kill a penalty, down 1 goal. This could be a pivotal moment in this game at the just beyond the midway point. Brandon Rickner says Minnesota is on pace for nearly 50 shots. Yeah, what else is new for Joel Blomqvist, right? Trial by fire. He had 50 shots in his last start, 46 saves, only 22 shots in this one to this point. But as you mentioned, near a 50-goal pace, certainly not 50-goal pace. Jesus, I would be logging off. I'm sorry, guys. I wouldn't be sitting here if they were giving up 50 goals, but nearly a 50-shot pace for the second consecutive start for Joel Blomqvist. Let's see if there's anything else here. Mosh Tren has an idea here as potentially a 2-on-1. They try to get something going. Lars Eller tries to find Drew O'Connor. That puck just doesn't settle down for him. Ryan Graves comes in. His slap shot is up high, and the save made by Marc-Andre Fleury. So a couple of shorthanded chances there by the Pittsburgh Penguins. They got to get back into their own zone. They do. And the puck is sent back up by Ryan Graves. Here comes Drew O'Connor in the offensive zone. Best way to rebuttal not liking the power play is go in there and spend the entire penalty kill in the offensive zone. That puck is turned over. O'Connor gets a little zealous, and it could be a 3-on-2 the other way. Kirill Kaprizov takes the puck. He holds up, looking for somebody behind him. That's going to get snuffed out by Lars Eller, but the Wild able to get the puck back. That's going to be... They going to call that? They don't call that. Okay, Penguins get lucky there. It looked like Lars Eller could have been guilty for a tripping, and if they called that instigator penalty on Jack St. Ivany, these refs seem like they're into calling some weak play penalties. That one looked like it could have been a penalty. Not called. Nola Chari tried to go inside out on a Wild defender. He gets tripped up, and they're going to say skate to skate and let him play. Mike Sullivan's going to have quite a few words for these officials the next time they head over to the Penguins bench. I'll tell you that much for sure. If he wasn't happy with the call on Jack St. Ivany, he's certainly not going to be happy on that non-call on the Nola Chari chance. But the Penguins do a good job, and they kill off that penalty. Pivotal moment in this game. Could they get an opportunity here? 3-on-2 if they hurry. Sidney Crosby gives it up to Letang, over to Malkin. The big three coming in, bearing down on Marc-Andre Fleury. They don't get it on the 3-on-2, but they do set it up in the offensive zone. A slap shot from Malkin goes wide. Marcus Pettersson tries to keep it going. Sends it down to Sidney Crosby. Crosby looking for an open player. That's going to go to Letang. That shot is saved by Marc-Andre Fleury. He's going to have something to say about that in the intermission. Fleury with a beautiful shoulder save on his good pal, Kris Letang, to keep it at 3-2 in favor of the Minnesota Wild. A good offensive zone shift there, though, for the first line and the top unit as well. Let's see if they can build off of that. Opportunity here. Rickard Rakell comes in, shot, rebound. Oh, just shot wide by Evgeni Malkin on this extended shift here. For him and Rickard Rakell. Crosby looks like he's already on the bench. Rakell gets the puck back, goes to Malkin. Malkin takes it into the zone, sends it over to Cody Glass. Cody Glass trying to get something going. Instead, that puck is going to harmlessly just squib over to Jake Middleton. Middleton sends it up the ice, and here come the Wild. Turned back the other way by the Penguins. Here they go, maybe getting a little bit of momentum off of that penalty kill. That's what we like to see. Drew O'Connor trying to get something going. He sends it deep. He's going to go in. Can they punish the guy? Konstantinov does turn the puck over. Fighting for it on the boards. Anthony Beauvillier turns back into the traffic. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Pays off for him. He's able to get it up to Kris Letang. Letang shoots it in. That's redirected on Fleury, and it's saved by the netminder for the Wild. Nice opportunity here for Beauvillier. His shot just goes wide, and now the puck's in front of the net. That hits off the post. And Marc-Andre Fleury does some snow angels in the crease to keep it out and keep the score at 3-2. That puck smacked right off the post. By the way, let's get to Mosh Trend's question now. Right after we see this replay, got to see it. And tempers are flaring again. Drew O'Connor wants a piece of one of the Minnesota Wild defensemen there. Marc-Andre Fleury should see his patented thank you to the post as that puck was shot on by Lars Eller. It hits off the post and just bounces right back to Marc-Andre Fleury, who goes on his back and makes the save. Big moment in this game. Nice push for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Liking what I'm seeing here after that penalty kill on the penalty to Jack St. Ivany that should not have happened. Mosh has an idea that Earthquake Jake likes. Says, put Hayes, which, the two big boys playing down low. I don't hate that idea at some point this season because right now, we are at a stage 10 games in that you're throwing stuff at the wall to seeing what sticks. Kevin Hayes has been pretty good at finishing this season. His shooting percentage is a little bit higher than you would expect it to continue to be at, but if you put him with Malkin, see if he gets rewarded for his performance so far this season. I don't hate that either. Right now, Malkin with Crosby and Raquel is looking good. Like that shift from the Penguins' second line with Eller and Achari and O'Connor. Again, I'm still trying to just remind myself of what the lines are because he put them in an absolute blender today. But I don't hate the idea of giving Hayes an opportunity with Gino if you need another spark and you need to continue to change things around because at this point, this team has tried so many different amalgamations of a lineup that why wouldn't you try anything that's could potentially work, especially with a player like Kevin Hayes who's exceeded expectations early in this season. Let's go over to Brian, who says, does it seem like since Mario left that the mojo went with him? The Penguins were the envy of the hockey world. They play for your brother and family atmosphere is gone. The play for your brother and family atmosphere is gone, or am I just sentimental? I think it's a little bit of both. I think that the timing of, Mario kind of checking out a little bit with the onset of, Jim Rutherford's starting to make rough moves. Jim Rutherford starting to make locker room moves because the Penguins just weren't getting the job done after the Cups. I think it was part of that. I think it was the Hextall moves whenever you go from a team that was playing for each other, had that play for your brother, play for your teammate mentality in 2022, and you kind of deconstruct the team, right? You get rid of Matheson, you get rid of Marino, you get rid of there was another one that summer that I didn't like. You lose Tanev and McCann in the expansion draft. You lose all those types of guys in the same summer, it's going to hurt it. And I think missing the playoffs hurts it as well. Look at the turnover over the last 2 years, right? These are guys that a lot of them haven't played more than 10 games together, to be completely honest. Most of them haven't played more than 2 seasons together. So it's an environment that's hard to foster that. I think the Penguins still have an enviable organization when it comes to just what they've built and what they have and their fan base. But I do think that it has lost its luster a little bit because it's not that family-owned business anymore, right? It's owned by a big corporation. It's owned by Fenway Sports Group, a group that owns multiple other teams. And with that comes some positives. I think if you've gone to a game in the past year and a half, you see those positives. The game atmosphere is much better. The additions to the club level, the additions to the concessions, the additions to, the massive freaking scoreboard, the ability of them to kind of invest in the game day atmosphere with Jaden Becker and what he's been doing. I think you've seen some positives, but I think it does take away that, family-owned business feel that you still get with, I won't say the Pirates because the Pirates is a different story, but you still get that with the Steelers. And I think that is a big thing that the Penguins had. And I think that I agree with you with Mario out the door. I think part of that has gone out the door a little bit with him. Part of it has. Not wholesale, but I think part of it has. Let's see if there's any other questions in here. Jessica Lynn says that was in. Come on, it hit the post. Great shift, though. I think when you're looking at this team right now, what they're missing is a player that can put the puck in the back of the net with ease. They're missing a sniper, and they're missing Brian Rust. And that's the one thing that I wanted to talk about. Haven't talked about it yet. considered week to week with a lower body injury. Bryan Rust was once again, and I say this every year, once again on pace to be a 30-goal scorer with his early season performance. He's always on pace for that, but he can never actually get to that. And at the end of the day, I've been saying it for years. Bryan Rust is a 30-goal scorer. He just hasn't been able to put it together and be healthy for a full season to be able to take advantage of it. At this point, I'm not sure he will. Who knows how long he's going to miss? He's technically week to week. He might miss just this week and come back next. But that knee injury or lower body injury, we don't know if it's a knee. It certainly looked like it, but that's just speculation. But that lower body injury, it didn't look good. And if he's going to miss another 5-10 games, again, you're going to have a hard time making it to 30 goals whenever you're missing 15, 20 games. Earthquake Jake says, a sniper like James Neal back in the early 2010s. Yes, I think for right now, I don't think that they need to go out and get a James Neal. But yeah, somebody of that ilk. And that's what Bryan Rust was for this team. That's what Jake Gensel was for this team before he was traded. Somebody who can just go out and if the puck's on his stick and he gets a little bit of time, he can just put it in the back of the net. You know, it's the mold of a guy like a Valtteri Puustinen, but Puustinen is just not polished enough to be that just yet in his career. He's young. It might come. He might never be a 20-goal scorer, but he definitely has that capability. You saw it earlier in this game. If he gets a little bit of space, if he gets the opportunity and he gets a lane, he can blow pucks past goaltenders. He just hasn't had the space. Guys like Rusty, guys like, Jake Gensel when he was here, guys like James Neal when he was here, they didn't need a lot of space. Phil Kessel, another one of those guys, just somebody that can come down the wing and just absolutely blow it past a goaltender. And just like that, with one flick of the wrist, could bring you within the game and bring you another goal. Penguins go with their top forward line here. 3 minutes, 12 seconds remaining in the second period of play. Still a 3-2 game. Penguins have yet to answer after going up 2 goals in this one and giving up 3 unanswered. Jessica Lynn says, Billy G's such a stud. I saw he was popped up there on the Sportsnet Pittsburgh feed. It was a funny interaction he had yesterday. If you haven't seen it, I believe DK Pittsburgh Sports put it out. I believe the Penguins themselves put it out on their website. Billy G decided to crash the Sidney Crosby media scrum yesterday and just ask him, how many goals are you going to score against us? Well, so far 0, but he has amassed 2 assists, which for Sidney Crosby this season is a nice little feather in the cap. You'd like to see him get one of these goals behind Marc-Andre Fleury and be able to bring this Pittsburgh Penguins team even at 3 apiece. Kris Letang sent in a crazy pass across the ice. Those are the types of passes that might have worked in 2010, and here they come on another breakaway. Again, caught napping in a defensive shift, right? Kris Letang goes off the ice for Erik Karlsson. A bad change, and it opens up an opportunity for the Minnesota Wild. This must be something that, this is something that the Penguins have shown. They've been doing it all season long, but it's certainly something that the Minnesota Wild have targeted in this second period. The second a Penguin goes for a shift, somebody starts to cherry pick a little bit. Maybe even beforehand, when the puck starts coming up the ice and the Penguins are in the neutral zone, have that one guy hang back a little bit maybe. That might be what they're looking at. Again, it's hard to tell because the camera angle follows the puck and not the fifth skater on the ice, but even there, Marcus Foligno was one-on-one with Graves, but who's the third guy back? It was Yakov Trenin. It was not a Pittsburgh Penguins defender. It was a Minnesota Wild forward. I'm not liking the way the Penguins are defending, and that can be said for every game this season, but especially tonight against the Minnesota Wild. Not their worst defensive performance. That one came in Edmonton, but certainly going in the wrong direction here. Puck is held up against the boards. Nobody's moving it. I think you should probably blow that one dead. Down to a minute 10, a minute 9. They finally blow the puck dead after it sat there for a solid 15 seconds. And nobody moved the puck at all. So, still a 3-2 game. Just about a minute left for the Pittsburgh Penguins to bounce back and even this one up before the second intermission. Brian tossing in his favorite Fleury story. Let's get to this one. Actually, let me hold you off for a second, Brian. We got a minute, 10 seconds left in the period. Let's go through the end of the period, and then let me know in the comment section if you have a favorite Fleury story. Can't speak today. If you have a favorite Fleury story, toss it in the comment section. We'll talk about it here in the intermission. Just 1 minute remaining in the second period. Penguins gave up that goal early, but I feel like they've gotten some momentum here through the remainder of this period. It's been back and forth, but the Penguins have gotten some of their best chances of the game later in this period. Let's see if they can actually build off of that. But for right now, the Minnesota Wild have it in the offensive zone. Wide open net. Wide open net. Who is the defender on that side? Kris Letang once again misses his assignment. Matt Zuccarello, he could play solitaire by himself and still be able to get that puck in the back of the net. Wide open. It is 4-2 with 36 remaining in this one. Listen, it's only a 2-goal game, but we saw in Vancouver a 2-goal game. The Penguins just kind of quit. We'll see if they do the same thing in this game. Pettersson. Yeah, Kris Letang just follows the puck carry behind the net. He is out to lunch. Talk about trying to bench a guy to send a message. Michael Bunting got that. Kris Letang has been the worst Pittsburgh Penguin this year. That is absolutely horrendous. Out to lunch, follows the puck carrier behind the net, and then takes a wide angle to get back, covering absolutely nobody, and it ends up being his side that Zuccarello is wide open upon. That is some horrible defense from Kris Letang. That is AHL level, scrub level defense by Kris Letang. 17 seconds left. The Penguins throw the first line out there, trying to get something back right before the break. Can they? Sidney Crosby tries to take the puck behind the net. 10 seconds remaining. Evgeni Malkin takes it, sends it up to Karlsson. Karlsson over the Grzelcyk. Grzelcyk shoots the puck wide, trying for a redirection. Doesn't get it. And just like that, the period comes to an end. Minnesota scored 2, and they take the lead 4-2 for the second consecutive game. The Pittsburgh Penguins get out to a 2-0 start and then give up 4 unanswered goals. Looks like the Wild are protesting, wanting a penalty call late in the period. They're not going to get it. The referee is skating back to his locker room. But the Minnesota Wild do get that second goal, the all-important insurance goal, and they take a 4-2 lead heading into the third period of play, which, forgot to mention this when they gave up their third goal of the game. The Pittsburgh Penguins have now, in the first 11 games of the season, given up 3 or more goals. You can't do anything. You can't do anything with that, right? The Penguins have been one of the better teams offensively in the NHL to start the season, and they're 3-6-1 because you're giving up 3 or more goals in every single game. Now they're averaging around 3 goals a game, but still, they've given up 3 or more in every game. No 2s, no 1s, no shutouts, none of that. And it hasn't even been particularly close, right? There's been multiple 6-goal games, multiple 4-goal games, no 5, or has there been a 5-goal game? There's been 1 5-goal game. But that's the first time that's happened since the 2005-2006 season. It's Crosby's rookie year. The Penguins only won 22 games that season. So by that logic, we're only going to see 19 more wins this year. Again, that logic probably doesn't persist, but at the same time, it is a rough start on the defensive side of the puck for the Pittsburgh Penguins and in net. You know, that first goal, you can't go away from it. That first goal was rough by Blomqvist, but that last one, I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Let's go to Brian's favorite Fleury moment, because right now, the hockey game is just not much to talk about. The Penguins are getting beat, and they're making some mental errors. Favorite Fleury story. Cup rematch with the Wings. Fleury fills a trash can with water to the brim, leans it against the hotel door of an annoying Wings fan in the room next to him, knocks and runs. Is that real? I've never heard that story, Brian. That's crazy if it's true. It would make a lot of sense if it's true. I mean, it sounds like something Marc-Andre Fleury would do. And Jessica Lynn says, wasn't it because they were disrupting his pregame nap? Okay, it's starting to come back to me a little bit. But again, that one feels like I would remember it a lot more. But that is crazy if it does happen again. I would not rule that one out for Marc-Andre Fleury. Earthquake Jake says, did you ever try Fleury Flake cereal? I did not. I never got Fleury Flake cereal. I still have an unopened box of City of Champions Crunch, where it's Max Talbot on one side and Heinz Ward on the other side, because that's the year Steelers win Super Bowl 43, Penguins win the Stanley Cup in 2009. They do the City of Champions Crunch. I do have an unopened box of that somewhere. I don't know where, but somewhere. Let's go over to Brandon Rickner Was a hot take here. They need to get Jari back up soon. It was nice to see Blomqvist play some NHL games, but there's no way this is good for him right now. Jari's spending the next 2 weeks in the AHL, whether they like it or not. That's the plan. That's what Kyle Dubas said last week whenever they sent him down. You can't rush Jari back up because Blomqvist is getting shelled, right? You have to take your lumps. Marc-Andre Fleury knows all about that. If you're playing behind a bad team, you're going to be playing behind a bad team. This is still experience. This is still an opportunity for Blomqvist to sharpen up, especially when he's facing this many opportunities a game. You're hoping that it doesn't ruin his development, but I don't think it will. I think he stood up to the challenge pretty well. And honestly, the biggest thing is going to be mentality. And everything that we've seen from Joel Blomqvist this season has been that he looks like he has that pro mentality, that he has that, leave that last goal in the past, move forward and stop the next shot type of mentality. So with that, I don't think that's, overly worrisome to have him in the NHL level. You just do need better defense. And at this point, it's not a quick fix. It's not. They're going to continue to be bad on defense. It's going to be a slow process to fix it. But at some point, you got to show some progress, right? I mean, it's only been getting worse. This game is just another example. I don't know if they're trying to force it too much because they've lost 5 straight and they think, well, we need to get on top. We need to get on top. We need to get on top. I don't know what the case is, but I'd rather them win a game 2-1 than win it 5-4 any day of the week. And Mike Sullivan is probably the same way. So I find it, I don't think that you need to rush Tristan Jarry back up here just to watch him, because if Tristan Jarry comes up, it doesn't matter if your defense plays better or not. If he comes up and plays the way that he did in the beginning of the season, you might as well get Hagen's, already bookmarked for a flight to Pittsburgh, because the Penguins aren't finishing any higher than 32nd in the league, because the way that Jarry was playing early in the season was below replacement level. So yeah, it'd be nice to get Jarry back up and get Jarry as the player that he was 3 seasons ago. But again, it's going to take some time for him to find his game. And it's just like the Penguins defense. It's not a quick fix. It's not a simple fix. It's something that's going to take time. And that's unfortunate that it's something that needs fixed this early in the season. Jessica Lynn has an update on the trash can story. Says, I think the trash can water thing was mentioned earlier on the TK Army and Talbot's rewatch of the 2009 final game or the 50 years of Penguins. I know it wasn't Pittsburgh is home. I know it wasn't that one, because that I watched probably 30 times. And that might be conservative, but I think you might be right. I think it was the TK Army and Talbot rewatch of Game 7 in 2009, something like that. And I believe it was in Game 7, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So that does ring a bell, Jessica. Thanks for kind of running that through my memory. But let's look at the lay of the land, to this point in this game. 4-2 is the score in favor of the Minnesota Wild. 4 unanswered goals for them after a 2-0 lead for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Shots on goal through 2 periods of play, 25-19 in favor of the Minnesota Wild. Block shots 13-7 in favor of the Penguins. Penalties 3 aside, penalty minutes 9 aside, power play goals 1 for the Penguins, and they are 1 for 3 on the power play. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Wild are 0 for 3 on the power play. Pens leading the faceoff dot. Hits are even at 8 apiece. But the big one is 4-2. And the biggest one is the fact that the Pittsburgh Penguins, for the second consecutive game, went from up 2-0 to down 4-2 in a matter of minutes. Gary Coral, I want to make sure I'm getting that right, says, how can you get better defensively if you don't move some people? You get those people to play better defensively. I mean, I don't, on the blue line, I'm curious. And again, this is not to be condescending. I'm curious, Gary, what moves would you like to see? And I'm just trying to open a dialogue here, because to me, you look at that defensive blue line, unfortunately, there's not a lot of moves that you can make, right? We saw them try, all right, let's move Grzelcyk down with Karlsson. Let's put Pettersson back with Letang, because that pairing has worked in the past. And it was worse. So you move it back. Do you put Ryan Graves on that first pairing? Is that where you're going with this? Because maybe that's an option that you do, and I don't rule that out. We talked about that earlier in the first period. Maybe in a little bit, maybe a little bit later, if Ryan Graves continues to show that he's been better than he was last year, you give him that opportunity. But I still feel like matchup-wise, him and Kris Letang are not a good fit. They're not a good fit. And him and Erik Karlsson, they're not a good fit together. I don't think I don't think that the styles match. And I think of those two, Ryan Graves ends up usually getting the worst of it when it comes to his numbers. But again, I'm not sure what you do. You might bring up, who from the minors? You might bring up, Rucker McGroarty? He's down there trying to figure out how to play professional hockey, right? That's the reason he got sent down, is to get more minutes, to get more ice time, to get more opportunity. You bring him up and you put him right on the top six. Is it sink or swim for him as well? We've kind of seen that with Blomqvist, but that's out of necessity. That's because there's nobody else there. So Brandon says, trade 2022 Karlsson for 2017 Karlsson. Yeah, that'd be good. Just pluck that Karlsson play, that version of Karlsson right off of that Eastern Conference Finals team for the Ottawa Senators. That would be perfect. But unfortunately, they got 2022 Karlsson was a Norris Trophy winner, wasn't he? The 2022 season, he had 100 points. So I'll take the Karlsson from 2022. Earthquake Jake says, we never did get a replacement for a defenseman like Rob Scuderi or Brooks Orpik or Ian Cole. For Rob Scuderi and Brooks Orpik, your replacement was Brian Dumoulin, and he was phenomenal for multiple years. Now, multiple leg injuries cost him to be less than effective towards his tail end of his time in Pittsburgh. But since he left, it's been Pettersson, not physical-wise, because only one of those three players. No, Ian Cole was physical. Brooks Orpik was physical. Rob Scuderi wasn't really physical. Rob Scuderi was exactly what you're seeing out of Marcus Pettersson when he's at his best, but Marcus Pettersson hasn't been at his best. So I'm not going to say we never got a replacement for those players, because Pettersson's there. I think that I'm trying to think of who else was on that left side throughout the years. Pettersson, Matheson was on the left side, or was he right? He was a right shot defenseman. You never replaced Brian Dumoulin. That's where I'll say. Gary says, make some trades. Again, you can't trade 4 players. What are you going to give up? First round pick? You losing a first round pick to help this team? One player is not going to help this. And you're not going to be able to make trades for a bunch of other players. Like, you're not going to be able to trade and get a completely new blue line. You're not going to be able to trade and get 3 new bottom 6 forwards. One, because other teams just aren't open to trading this early in the season. And 2, because it's just not going to work that way. You're not going to be able to execute that many trades and win that many trades. And again, it's the same thing as kind of saying that the rebuild's going to be quick because they got a bunch of young players in. You're going to need all of them to hit. And it doesn't always happen like that. Look at Mikael Granlund. Now, most people could say a second for Mikael Granlund was a bad idea to begin with. But again, he was way worse than anticipated. He was far worse than anticipated. That could happen if you start making trades again. So do you get anxious? Do you make some trades? Maybe you make one trade to try to shake the room up, but it's early in the season. You have to find a dance partner, and other teams typically aren't willing to make those trades and to help out other GMs this early in the season. So I get what you're saying. Sometimes you need to shake up the locker room. Sometimes you need new personnel, but this is all new personnel. We're 11 games into the season. That's it. And everything has just gotten off to such a bad start this early that it looks like they need to pull a ripcord on something. Well, I get what you're saying, Gary. Maybe you make some trades. Maybe you try to make at least one trade to shake up the room. I don't know if this is a team that's been together enough that trading away, who do you say you trade away, right? Because a lot of these players have no move clauses or modified no move clauses. You trade away a Nola Chari. 1, do you have anybody that wants to take them? And 2, what does that do to the room? Does that wake everybody up, or does that just say, oh man, we lost our best shot blocker, our most physical forward, and the best fourth liner we have right now? Do you trade Lars Eller, who's been one of the more productive players on the team, one of the better penalty killers on the team? It's tough. It's tough. It's not an enviable position, but right now the Penguins, they're not going to trade future assets to get anybody to help this current team. That's just not the situation that they're in anymore. They haven't been in it really for the last 2 seasons, but they certainly aren't in it this year. Brandon Rickner says, Pettersson is not having a great season in his final contract year. Do you think he could still fetch a first-round pick? I think if he performs the way that he's performing now until the trade deadline, you're probably not getting a first-round pick for Marcus Pettersson. And to be honest, you're probably not getting a first-round pick for Marcus Pettersson if he's playing at his best. He's a defensive defenseman. He's a left shot defenseman, and he's a defensive defenseman. That typically doesn't fetch a first round pick. Could it fetch a second and a third? Could it fetch a second and a B plus prospect? Potentially. But I don't think that you're getting a first round pick for Marcus Pettersson at this stage of the game, especially if he continues to perform the way that he's been performing up to this point in the season. As far as his contract is concerned, I mean, this is speculation. This is me reading between the lines and what I feel like based on what I've heard from everything that's been publicly said, nothing inside. It feels like they're trending towards that direction anyway, of trading Marcus Pettersson and not giving him a new contract. It feels that way. I'm not saying that it is that way. I'm not reporting anything. I'm just saying the way that Kyle Dubas has spoken about Pettersson's contract in public settings doesn't give me a lot of hope that they're going to go out there and re-sign him. It makes it feel like this is a guy that they're looking at and hoping that he performs well and hoping that the team performs well and they can keep him on and they can try to make a playoff run and then they'll talk about it after the season. But if they're not in a playoff position and he has value, which I would believe even if he struggles, he's going to have some value, they're going to look to trade him at the deadline if they're able to get a deal that's worth it. Brian says, favorite trade acquisitions by the Pens all time. Mine is Chris Kunitz. Exactly what they needed. I love Chris Kunitz. I mean, that is going to be at the top of a lot of people's list. I mean, he comes in, he becomes a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. He plays on Sidney Crosby's wing, for Christ's sakes, for his entire career up until 2017. And even in 2017, he scores that game-winning goal in double overtime against the Ottawa Senators. So it's hard to go against a guy like Chris Kunitz. I really loved the acquisition. I mean, perfect day to bring this up. I really loved the acquisition in 2009 of Billy Guerin. Speaking of exactly what the Penguins needed a big veteran forward to come in here, play with Sid, get the young buck to get on the straight and narrow, get him to get over that hump. I think Billy Guerin was one that not a lot of people talk about because it wasn't a very long relationship with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but it was very, very fruitful. So I'll say one of those. Earthquake Jake says Kunitz scored 5 goals in his first three games with the Penguins. Love that. Appreciate that. Bill Guerin, certainly. Chris Kunitz, certainly. I'm trying to think if there's any other major ones. I mean, Phil Kessel. It's hard to go away from a guy that you trade for. He becomes one of the most integral pieces to your team and wins 2 Stanley Cups in the first 2 years. And then scores, I believe, 90-plus points in the third year that he's with the team. Now, there's some people that had their dislikes with Phil Kessel. What he did in the defensive zone sometimes, how he dogged it sometimes. I loved Phil Kessel as a Pittsburgh Penguin. He's a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Now he's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion since he got that one in Vegas. I thought that was another one as well. So I'll go Kunitz. I like that. I agree with that. I like the Bill Guerin answer as well. And I'll throw out there Phil Kessel as well. Mosh Trend says Gary Roberts. That's a good one. Brian says, yep, Guerin. He's an ad just like a Matt Cullen, like that one as well. So, yeah, there have been a lot of trade acquisitions that I've liked just for the fun of it and just for – I'll throw one more out here before we go to the next topic of conversation. Okay, I gotta give this one some love because Carl Hagelin, I'm probably one of a few people that have a Carl Hagelin jersey hanging in their closet right now. So I loved Carl Hagelin. David Perron, I was a little disappointed in David Perron, to be completely honest. I expected more, and I think the Penguins expected more out of David Perron. I mean, if we want to go to worse trades, Derek Brassard. Honestly, Perron was good. I think he could have been much better for the Penguins as the teams take the ice to get ready for the third period. A big third period here for the Penguins, looking to avoid a 6-game losing streak as we're only in 11th game of the season. Jessica Lynn says Pascal Dupuis. A lot of people like Pascal Dupuis. I agree with that one as well. Where was I going with this? I had one in my head. I got distracted by the Carl Hagelin of it all. I had one more trade acquisition. It's going to bother me. That's going to bother me. I'm trying to rewind in my head. We had Gary Roberts. We had Bill Guerin. We had Matt Cullen. I was talking Phil Kessel. Oh, that's where I was going with this. For the fun of it all. Not that it equated to a championship, because a lot of these players we're talking about were championship teams. The day they acquired Jarome Iginla was one of the most exciting days as a fan that I was. You know, saying, all right, we're going to get Jarome Iginla, Stanley Cup champion, captain of the Calgary Flames, bona fide Hall of Famer Jarome Iginla to play on this team. And that team for a time was very, very fun, right? Power play, a lot of fun. They were clicking on all cylinders. They end up, I believe, with the second highest seed in that season, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, they go and they get to the conference finals, and we all know what happened against Boston. But I loved the Iginla trade. I thought that was a lot of fun. Just kind of crazy going back and saying, wow, Jarome Iginla played for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it actually, for the most part, not that he, lit the world on fire points-wise when he was with the Pens, but, I mean, it worked out. They won a couple playoff series. Short side shot there by Rickard Rakell early. And Marc-Andre Fleury shows the young buck. That's how you seal off a post. That's how you seal off a post. Penguins get the first opportunity of the third period. They're going to need to go here. Minnesota, one of the best defensive teams in hockey coming into this one, only allowing 11 5-on-5 goals. Pens down 2. They're going to need to get some work done because I'm not sure. They already have 3 power plays. I'm not sure they're going to get any other calls here unless something's egregious. Earthquake Jake said, loved UC Jokinen. I actually wore number 36 in hockey for a couple of years because I liked UC Jokinen, so love that. He was always phenomenal in the shootout as well, something that they could have used a couple nights ago in Calgary. So the Penguins start this third period. I gave keys to the second period, and the Penguins proceeded to go out there and do the opposite. I said, protect the net front, protect right in front of the crease, protect the house, if you will. And they gave up a couple of goals in the house, and they played poor defensively. Spend more time in the offensive zone. I'd say they did that towards the tail end of the period. Then, of course, they give up that goal late to Matt Zuccarello to go down 4-2. So, goals in this third period, you're down 2 goals. So the tips to win, if you will, you're just going to have to press. And that sometimes comes at the disadvantage of allowing some more opportunities in the defensive zone, like they're going to allow here. A bad jump by Karlsson. He gets beaten by Johansson there. But you're going to have to press. Odd man rushes 5-2. That seems low for the Minnesota Wild. Sportsnet Pittsburgh just put that on the screen. But 5-2 seems very low. Feels like we've seen a lot more of those. Minnesota Wild setting things up here. Spurgeon looking center of the ice. Nobody touching Marco Rossi right in between the dots. Hate to see it. Beautiful pass there from Jonas Brodin. Looks like he was finding Kaprizov. Brodin gets the puck in the same spot. This time not allowed to do that. Good play by Valtteri Puustinen to make up ground in the defensive zone. The one thing I will say, Mike Sullivan is sticking to his lines in this one. We saw it in Vancouver. We saw it in Edmonton. We saw it, I believe. No, we didn't see it in Calgary. So we saw it in the last 2 games. By the third period, Mike Sullivan was flipping up lines again and trying to figure something out, trying to find something. He's stuck to it in this one. He's saying, these are the lines we wanted to go with. These are the lines we wanted to see what they got. We're going to see what they got, even if it costs us a game here. I will say, though, the bottom 3 lines, I was hard on them midway through that second period. End of the period, they got some things going. Fourth line got a good shift in there. Second line was getting a couple good shifts in there. Third line, not as much, but we'll have to wait and see. They really need Michael Bunting to get going. And as I say that, maybe, no, never mind, not an opportunity. He was heading up the ice looking to push back the defense. Just couldn't connect with Cody Glass on that stretch pass. So far in this period, exactly what Zach Bogosian's shot is saved by Joel Blomqvist. But so far in this period, exactly what the Minnesota Wild want to do. Make the Penguins come from behind their own net, make them go full 200 feet of the ice. There's an opportunity. That shot is wide by Cody Glass. Man, he is just snake bitten. Good opportunities, good chances, good job at creating offense. Just hasn't been able to finish it. Brandon Rickner says, Puustinen on the fourth line feels like such a waste. He certainly isn't a grind guy. here's the thing. They don't really have the fourth line being a grind line. They're kind of, with this type of lineup, they're kind of going with a Seattle Kraken method of we have a top line and then we have a bunch of second/third lines. There's no fourth line grind line. I mean, you need no more evidence than the fact that Nola Chari's on the second line right now. I mean, you're not saying that second line's a high scoring line with Nola Chari on it now. So you're looking at really just a first line and then a whole handful of, I would say, third lines is what you have right now. And that's the downfall of having, Malkin and Crosby and Raquel all on the same line. But at the same time, it tells you that even though Puustinen is, there's a goal, nice shot on by, I believe that was Marcus Pettersson, redirected in. And once again, it is Tricky Ricky Ricard Raquel. Huge goal for the Pittsburgh Penguins early in this third period. They sneak one past Marc-Andre Fleury, and all of a sudden, they are one shot away from tying this thing up. That's what they need, a little bit of momentum on their side. Ricard Raquel's second goal of the game, his sixth of the season. And that's going to be a third assist on the night for Sidney Crosby. So I don't know if it's Fleury's presence. I don't know if it's Malkin being up on that top line, but something has kicked Crosby into high gear. He wins that puck battle off the boards, feeds Marcus Pettersson, who sends it on net, and a good job from Ricard Raquel. Drive hard to the net, get the stick on the puck, and pokes it through the 5-hole of Marc-Andre Fleury. Pens back within one, 4-3 game with 16-24, remaining in this one. A little bit of life for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now what you want to see, you have a power play goal by Puustinen. That's good. That's nice. You have 2 5-on-5 goals by that top line. Let's see a little bit of that bottom nine getting going. Lars Eller's had a couple of good shifts. His line's been going. Let's see them do something. Maybe this fourth line here, little different combination. You got Nola Chari, Kevin Hayes, Jesse Puljujärvi out there following the goal. What can they do? Can Puljujärvi kind of get out of his small slump that he's been in? He's kind of slowed down since the beginning of the season. Would like to see him kind of get back to what he was early in the year, because he was very good in the Penguins' bottom six in the first handful of games. Puustinen sends it down deep. Here comes Lars Eller. Continue to talk about him. What's he able to do? In on the forecheck. Slow developing for the Minnesota Wild defense. Bogosian sends it up. That's stuck in between the skates of a Minnesota Wild forward. And the puck is sent right back in. Penguins trying to put a little pressure on here. O'Connor just misses on the forecheck. Erik Karlsson steps up, gets the opportunity. Good pass, good shot. And it's saved by Marc-Andre Fleury. That one was wired by Lars Eller. A good pass there from, I believe, Valtteri Puustinen after Erik Karlsson stepped up in the offensive zone. Pinched to give the Penguins another opportunity. I agree with what Evan says here. He says, I think Crosby's looked better tonight, hence the 3 points. I think that line in its entirety has looked better, hence the reason I think we're seeing them get double shifted here. They're out there once again. What can Crosby do? What can Malkin do? I thought Malkin's looked like he's had a little bit of a jump in this game. Marcus Pettersson loses possession of the puck behind the net. He takes a crash into the boards. Minnesota Wild pushing back here, making sure that this forward line stays in the defensive zone. But instead, it's Sidney Crosby. He sends it out. That pass is redirected. He was looking for Malkin. Malkin able to find Raquel. Raquel has a little pocket of space in the neutral zone. Uses it, gets into the zone, takes it down deep, and turns the puck over to Kirill Kaprizov. It's a 3-on-2 if they hurry. Evgeni Malkin trying to get back. Can he take away the option for the third forward? He does. And the puck is harmlessly sent into the glove of one Joel Blomqvist. So the Penguins had a little bit of pushback late in the second. That one big defensive miscue by Kris Letang looms large right now, as they, after a kind of a slow first 2 minutes of play in the third period, have bounced back, have started to get the momentum back on their side. They pot that goal with Ricard Raquel, and now they're starting to get the momentum rocking. I'm watching this game on mute because obviously I'm talking to you guys, but I would imagine the vibe in the building, let me know in the comment section. The vibe in the building should be raising a little bit here, third period. They're pushing, they're getting their opportunities, they're pressuring Marc-Andre Fleury a little bit. Let's see what they can do out of this. Letang's out there. He's had a rough night, so that's going to worry me a little bit, especially when he's with Matt Grzelcyk. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm assuming that pairing is not looking good on the analytical stat sheet. Minnesota Wild looking to push back, looking to regain that 2-goal lead. Kirill Kaprizov, who I feel like has been kept relatively in check from what I expected tonight. I mean, the guy is an MVP candidate this year, and he's performing as such. Nice play made there by Cody Glass, but they're going to take it off sides. They don't touch up, so the play continues, but a good job of Cody Glass trying to get into that offensive zone. Almost got around the Minnesota Wild defenders. That puck skittles. It skips over the stick of Ryan Graves. Let's see what we see. Let's see what Earthquake Jake says here. What we should have done was get Jacob Chikrin when we had the chance to. I agree. I think everything was lining up for Ron Hextall to make that move. I think he was trying to make that move. I think if the Ottawa Senators had not made the trade that day, if it would have went 2 more days, I think you would have seen Jacob Chikrin in Pittsburgh, because I think that's what Ron Hextall was clearing space for, right? That was back when he waived Teddy Bluger, or he traded Teddy Bluger for like nothing. That was when he waived Kasperi Kapanen, and Kapanen got taken off of waivers by St. Louis. So that's when he was opening up that roster space. That's when he was opening up that cap space. And I think he was looking for Jacob Chikrin. The Coyotes were just not patient with it. They wanted the deal done. They got the deal done. Here's an opportunity, but it just can't connect. Achari looking for a streaking Kevin Hayes, who was coming down into the soft spot in the zone. That's something the Penguins have taken advantage of a little bit here in that third period. You've seen that third forward create a little bit of space just slightly above the dots in the center portion of the ice. Pens just weren't able to connect on that one. But yeah, if they would have gotten Jacob Chikrin, I think it would have worked out well. Clearly, it didn't work well for him in Ottawa, and now he's back in the, or not back in the Metro, he's in the Metropolitan Division with the Washington Capitals, but would have liked to see him. I thought he would have been a nice fit for the Penguins, especially in that season. Penguins 4-3. They head to the commercial break. I'm going to take a quick commercial break to fill up my water. When we're back, the final 15 minutes of this one. Get your questions in, get your comments in. Let me know what you're thinking of this game as we've been doing all night. Let me know, your favorite Fleury moment, because that is something else that we continue to talk about. But it's a 4-3 game right now in the third period. Penguins looking to tie it up against the Minnesota Wild. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh watch-along of Penguins versus Wild. Appreciate everybody sticking with me through that quick break. We're back with about 12 minutes, 14 seconds left in this one. Penguins looking to tie this up. They've had a much better third period, coming out here and controlling a little bit more of the pace of play. Wild still getting some of their chances, though. But the Penguins, I feel like, have had the better of them in this period, and obviously have the lone goal of this third and final frame in tonight's game. And that comes at Ricard Rakell's stick, his second of the game, 6th of the season. And that top forward line for the Pittsburgh Penguins of Malkin, Crosby, and Rakell have now put in 2 goals at even strength, and Crosby has 3 assists to boot. It's going to be an icing call on the Pens, and that first forward line is going to have to start from their own zone. Evan says, I know it's early, too early in the season to say it, but Rickard Rakell is on pace for 40-plus goals this season. I mean, compared to what he showed last year, which remember, last year, 0 goals in 17 games, then he goes down with the shoulder injury, and that injury really bothered him throughout the remainder of the season. He was a player that, it was him and Riley Smith, 2 players that the Penguins expected to be good in their top 6, hence the reason that they kind of went into last year with the plan of, okay, the top 6 is going to score, the bottom 6 is going to defend. It didn't work because 2 of the top 6, Rakell and Riley Smith, were just not up to snuff. This year, fortunately, you bet on Rakell to bounce back, not only because you had to with his contract, but because, he was so good for them in his first full season, and he so far has bounced back in a big way. 6 goals in the first 11 games of this season for Tricky Ricky Rickard Rakell. Let's go over to Darren as we are just about 11 minutes, just under 11 minutes remaining in this one for the Penguins to try to tie things up. Says, hi, I'm a Penguins fan and hope they win because we be 64 and I hope to win the next game too because I'm a big Pens fan. Well, Darren, I'm hoping they win too. Earthquake Jake says, but Rakell played good in those games last year. He was grinding, shooting, and everything, just not scoring. Yeah, but you could tell that there was something off. He was a little bit slower to the puck. Some of his decision-making was a little bit off. And obviously his shot wasn't nearly what it is right now. And I think that is because of that shoulder injury. I mean, multiple people, including Nick Horwat of previously the Hockey News, now of Breakaway on SI, had reported that, hey, he's playing with a shoulder brace, right? It's going to kind of restrict his ability to shoot. There's a nice face-off win, good set play off the face-off, and that one from Bunting is shrugged away simply by Marc-Andre Fleury. So while I do think there were times where he played well, and there were times where he looked like the Rickard Rakell that he was the year before, for large portions of last season, he wasn't himself. And the question was, is he going to be himself again? And unequivocally, he has answered that question to start the season, and the answer is yes. He has been very good to start the season. That shot is back in peak form, and his ability and his chemistry, there's a penalty coming up on Anthony Beauvillier. Offensive zone penalty, not one that you want to take and not one that is going to go over well with head coach Mike Sullivan. Wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't see much of the ice the remainder of the game after that one. Yeah, you can tell they cut to Sully and he just looks down. He says, what are we doing? The stick caught in between the skates there. Offensive zone penalty, not one that you want to be taking if you're Anthony Beauvillier. Darren with a question says, is this Fleury's last season? Is he retiring after this game? Not after this game. No, but this is his final game in Pittsburgh because this is the last time that the Minnesota Wild will visit the Pittsburgh Penguins this season. It is his 21st and last season. He announced that at the end of last year. He said one more year, I believe was the exact quote. So this is the last year. This is the last opportunity for him in Pittsburgh. And this is a massive opportunity for the Minnesota Wild to kind of put this one away here. 10 minutes left in the third. They get a power play opportunity, already 0 for 3 on the evening. We'll see what they're able to conjure up here with Brock Faber taking the puck on the near half wall. He sends it up to Zuccarello. Zuccarello looking near wall, tries to fit it in. And you can fool me once, shame on me. You fool me twice, shame on me. You can't do it to Joel Blomqvist. He is tight up against that post. Doesn't give up the goal on the squeaky short side like he did in that first one. So good job there from Blomqvist to seal everything up on Matthew Boldy. He shot that one up looking for the far post, actually. Blomqvist was over there, and he was able to just kind of squeeze that in the 6 hole between his elbow and his armpit. Penn's got Lars Eller out there for this face-off. Everybody's locked up in between, and a good job from Drew O'Connor to find that puck and shuffle it down the ice. And a good clear for the Penguins penalty kill, the first of this 4th penalty kill of the game. That's been one of their strengths this year. I wrote an article last week for Breakaway on SI that was talking about how special teams has been a positive for them this year. Special teams has, been honestly one of the better parts of their season so far. At that time, their power play was clicking on pretty good cylinders. They were 12th in the NHL. I'm drinking too much water. It's giving me the burps. 12th in the NHL, and their penalty kill has been stellar all season long for the second consecutive season. 3 for 3 on the penalty kill this game so far. Still some work to be done, though. They have to be able to get this last 46 seconds. It's a huge kill here for the boys in black and gold. Jack St. Ivan, he's going to get over the puck. You got to get that one out. Do they? I don't know what the call is here. Looks like everybody was stopping, and they might get Kevin Hayes. Looks like his stick got caught up, and they are going to send him to the box. Can't keep taking penalties when you're trying to come back from a 1-goal deficit. Looks like Mike Sullivan's a little less upset about that one. Just let's see what we get here. Hayes is looking for the puck, and it just, yeah, there's not much you can do with that. He's turning around, doesn't even see Zuccarello there, and his stick just goes right into the blade of Matt Zuccarello. Zuccarello falls, and all of a sudden it is 25 seconds of 5-on-3 time, and then another minute and a half on the penalty kill for the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is not a situation you want to be in. Big moment for this one. It was already pivotal before. It's even more pivotal now. 25 seconds of 5-on-3. Then you have to kill more time, and then you should only have about 6.5 minutes left to get the tying goal. It'd be nice if you got a shorty, but right now I think the main focus is going to be on trying to kill off the remainder of this penalty. It needs to be to kill off the remainder of this penalty. Can't go down 2 goals once again. That's for sure. This is when you look to your young goaltender and Joel Blomqvist and you say, hey, kid, give us a save. Give us a save. And that's what they're hoping for here. 5-on-3 for 25 seconds. Looks like Nola Chari. I like how I'm lifting my head up like it's going to help me see around the referee. Nola Chari in the faceoff dot. He loses it. And here we go. Brock Faber over to Zuccarello. Zuccarello closing in, goes behind the net, looking across to Kirill Kaprizov, who bounces it back to Zuccarello. Goes up to the point. A nice save on Matthew Boldy by Joel Blomqvist. They need one clear here. Boldy takes the puck. Looking. He shoots it. That's blocked. Joel Eriksson takes it. And the Penguins clear the zone. That's huge. 5-on-3 is done. 1:30 remain on the man advantage for the Minnesota Wild. Wild take it into the zone. Pettersson tries to let it go to Glass. Glass can't get it. Minnesota Wild take it. Zuccarello, slap shot, sopped down and not controlled by Blomqvist. He was able to make the save, but wasn't able to corral it and get the stoppage. Minnesota Wild continued pressure. Brock Faber finds Zuccarello. Zuccarello tries to go across, gets that cross crease pass, but the shot is just wide. Penguins regain possession of the puck. They send it down, and it looks like it went out of play. Was that redirected, or is this going to be another penalty for the Pittsburgh Penguins? The refs are conferring. It did go out of play. Was it redirected? Where did it go out? You got Jared Spurgeon over there campaigning. And they are going to get the call. The hits just keep coming for this Pittsburgh Penguins team. That is going to be another penalty, 3rd consecutive penalty for them, as it looks like Lars Eller just tried to backhand the puck. From that view, it does not look like it hit anybody. It looks like it went straight out. Let's see this up close view. Does Boldy touch the puck at all? Oh, that one's close. I don't think there's going to be enough to overturn it. And Lars Eller is not going to argue it. He's going into the box. Delay of game. 5-on-3 for 56 seconds now for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and one of your best penalty killers. That angle changes things a little bit. I don't know. We got to see more of these super move, but it doesn't matter. They already dropped the puck. So 5-on-3 again, 3rd consecutive minor penalty in a row. And the Penguins are on the 5-on-3 kill. What are they going to be able to do? Zuccarello over to Kaprizov. He misplays the puck. Puck comes up to the point, and Boldy takes it. Goes back to Zuccarello. He's looking. Finds Boldy, who goes over, and a cross-crease pass to Kaprizov is shut down by Joel Blomqvist. Wild setting it up again. They're closing in. They're kind of making the zone. They're squeezing the zone. Another chance for Boldy. He goes over to Kaprizov. That's saved, and that's cleared by the Pittsburgh Penguins. A couple of nice saves by Joel Blomqvist. What did I say before that last 5-on-3 started? You're looking at this kid and you're saying, all right, give us a save, kid. Give us a save. He's giving you 2 now on this 5-on-3. 8 seconds remaining on the Kevin Hayes penalty. Boldy takes it in the zone. Zuccarello, they try that cross-crease pass again. It's cleared out, and that's going to do it for the first penalty. 1 minute and 4 seconds remain on the Lars Eller penalty. If they can clean all of these penalties off the board, you would imagine that first shift coming up is going to be Malkin. It's going to be Crosby. It's going to be Raquel. They're going to try to tie this game up late with about 5 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in this one. Marcus Johansson gets into the zone. Marco Rossi takes it over. Looks like the second power play unit is on now for the Minnesota Wild. Shot is blocked and up and out of play. A good job there by, I believe it's Ryan Graves, who's able to get his skate on the puck. 36 seconds remaining. This is a huge kill for the Penguins. Look at that save by Joel Blomqvist on Kirill Kaprizov. Puck is moving real well from the Wild. Kaprizov tracks it and makes the big save with his glove, followed up by his body to make sure that he has more of the net covered up. A good job there by the young goaltender. Face-off win by Achari. Jack St. Ivany tries to shut the puck down. Coming in to help is his D partner, Ryan Graves. Puck is up against the boards. Time is ticking down, so this is helping the Penguins if they can come away with this and clear it. Ryan Graves keeps it in the zone. They keep it down there. Graves, another good job. He says it goes up and it hits off the netting, and it does. They get the stoppage. A good job there from Ryan Graves and Jack St. Ivany up against the board. Shout out to also, it looks like Drew O'Connor was down there helping as well. They killed about 20 seconds of penalty kill time, just keeping that puck in the corner. Perfect execution by St. Ivany, and here come the big guns. Sidney Crosby out to take the draw with 13 seconds remaining on the penalty kill. Huge for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They keep Noel Acciari out there to block a shot. Crosby wins the faceoff, gets it to St. Ivany, and St. Ivany's going to skate with the puck. 8 seconds to go. He dumps it down the length of the ice, and that's going to do it. Huge and important penalty kill by the Pittsburgh Penguins after taking 3 consecutive penalties. It started with an offensive zone penalty on Anthony Beauvillier, and then it's just an unfortunate situation for Kevin Hayes. They kill that one, and a delay of game from Lars Eller. They kill that one. Here we are back at even strength. They go to commercial break with 5:36 remaining. The Penguins, now you got to hit the gas pedal. Now you have to hit the gas pedal. We'll see what they're able to do here in the waning moments, if they're able to take advantage and get one past Marc-Andre Fleury in his finale in the city of Pittsburgh. Crazy situation there. When you look at the Penguins penalty kill now, I want to see what they were coming into this game, because that would be, let me double check here. With 6 minutes remaining, it is now 0 for 6 for the Minnesota Wild on the man advantage. Just a tremendous job done by the Pittsburgh Penguins on the man disadvantage. Coming into today, let's get this correct here. Coming into today, the Penguins had the 11th ranked penalty kill in the National Hockey League at 82.1%. That's going to be much, much higher when you go 6 for 6 in a game. A huge and important string of kills for the Penguins. 3 straight in the middle portion of this third period. And for some reason, the Sportsnet Pittsburgh feed is freaking out. They said -1 goal for the Penguins in the first period. Sometimes it's felt like that this season, and 4 goals in the third. Hey, listen, it all adds up to 3, and that's what the Penguins are at right now. So no matter what way you split it, that's where they're at. 5 minutes to go in this one. You'd have to imagine, especially because they weren't on the ice really at all over the last, 6 minutes of real time, of game time, 10 minutes of regular in-person time. You'd have to imagine you're getting double shifted if you're Crosby and you're Malkin and you're Rickard Rakell. That line is going to be out there. If there's 5 minutes remaining in this one, which there's 5.5, that line's going to be out there for at least 3, I would have to imagine. And, yep, to start out a break, they're out there right now with Kris Letang and Matt Grzelcyk. Crosby takes the draw. He loses it clean. Spurgeon, shot on goal. That's going to go wide, and Letang's going to take it. Can the Penguins get something started? Letang sends it up high off the boards, and it goes into Minnesota's control. Evgeni Malkin takes the turnover in the neutral zone. He's going to skate it up the ice. Contested well by a Wild defender. Malkin circles back, tries to find Crosby. It just slowly trickles into the zone. Crosby, a second too late. A good job on the back check there by Rickard Rakell, and the Penguins have it in the offensive zone. A good shot there by Crosby. Just goes wide of the sprawling Marc-Andre Fleury. Penguins lose a board battle, and the Minnesota Wild take it out to safety. Kris Letang back on the puck. Looking to set things up. Might be switching lines. This they are. Second line is coming on. It looks like Lars Eller is the first out there. Valtteri Puustinen getting a shift out here with Lars Eller and Drew O'Connor. A little bit more scoring touch here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And they turn the puck over, and out come the Minnesota Wild. Wild take it into the zone. It looks like Trennan. It's a big body trying to protect the puck. Speaking of big bodies, it's Marcus Foligno with the puck. He gives it back to Trennan. Trennan going one-on-one with Erik Karlsson. He's going to win that battle 8 times out of 10. The puck down deep in the Penguins zone. A couple players fighting for it. Looks like 2 on each side. And the Penguins emerge with it. 4:03 remaining in the final period here. You'd have to imagine Joel Blomqvist starts looking at the bench. Will Mike Sullivan pull him probably with about a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go? And that's going to be an icing call on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Cody Glass trying to get out there and get his first goal. Looks like it was Ryan Graves who sent the puck down and just couldn't find a forward stick for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Excuse me, that was Marcus Pettersson, 28. 3:49. This would be a huge momentum boost if they're able to get this win. Not only do you end the 5-game losing streak, but you do it in a fashion that proves that you have the ability to come back when you fall behind. I mean, they have shown that at times this season. You look at no further than their game against the Buffalo Sabres, but a bad turnover there by Erik Karlsson stops the breakout for the Penguins. Marcus Pettersson taken to the ice. Hands are down by the sides for the referees. That shot is in on Joel Blomqvist. He's going to shut it down. And it looks like they're going to head to their final commercial break here. 3:25 remaining for the Pittsburgh Penguins to try to come back in this one. Giving up 4 unanswered goals for the second consecutive game after having a 2-0 lead. And just like in the last one, they were able to get a goal in the third period to pull it to 4-3. Can they change the ending of this storybook here against the Minnesota Wild and their old pal, Marc-Andre Fleury? I mean, you look at the shots on goal, 38 again for the Minnesota Wild. That is a busy, busy night for Joel Blomqvist. And honestly, outside of that first goal, it's hard to put a lot of this on him. The breakaway, yes, we say it all the time with Tristan Jarry. We say it all the time with Alex Nedeljkovic. We can't change up and switch up when we're talking about Joel Blomqvist. You'd like to see, hey, make the save in the opportune moment, but at the same time, the kid has been absolutely shelled. I mean, 88 shots in his last 2 games that he's faced, and he's given up 8 goals, so 80 saves on 88 shots in his last 2 games. That is a busy, busy couple of performances for Joel Blomqvist. Let me look and see what that actually is when it comes to save percentage, because I'm curious. I feel like that's a 900 save percentage, 909 save percentage. So these last 2 performances, he's been hung out to dry, and he has stood up to the challenge for the most part in all of them. Once again, the fact that you had 5 minutes to play, those guys weren't out there on the ice, those guys being the top line, and now you get another commercial break here, they're going to be on the ice the last 3 minutes of this game. Maybe 1 or 2 shifts off. Marcus Pettersson was looking for a trip. Not happy. He might have a case there considering some of the calls that have been made in this game. On both sides, too. I'm not just saying that it's only favored the Wild. Pens have gotten a couple weak calls in their favor as well. So let's see what the Penguins' top line is able to do here. It's the same exact thing we saw at the 5:36 mark. It's the top line of Crosby, Malkin, and Rakell with Kris Letang and Matt Grzelcyk. Letang sends it up into the offensive zone. Even with the puck on his stick, where you would think, even if the defense isn't working, at the very least, Kris Letang is going to be able to do what he always does and be good with the puck on his stick. It just not like poor decision-making from him. Penguins do get the puck in the offensive zone, but it quickly comes out the other way. Letang pinched, could have been a 2-on-1, but luckily it bounces harmlessly onto Mike Grzelcyk's stick. Penguins looking for a change here. Quick changes late in the third period for them. That's going to go the length of the ice, and that is going to be stopped for icing. 2:42 remaining. Penguins pushing hard. I'll give that to them. They look like they have a lot more life than they did late against the Vancouver Canucks. I don't know if that's the home cooking. I don't know if in Vancouver that was just simply you're at the end of a long losing road trip that you're just ready to get home after being in Western Canada for a week. But they certainly have a lot more life in this one. Lars Eller wins the faceoff. Jackson Ivany takes it, nobody in front of the net. He defers to Valtteri Puustinen, who gives it over to Pettersson. Pettersson takes a shot right off of a wild defenseman right in front of him. Don't like that decision there by Marcus Pettersson, but the Penguins have no time to worry about it. They take it back into the offensive zone. Puustinen tries to find Michael Bunting. Bunting is ridden off into the boards, but he's helped out by Lars Eller. Eller tries to find Bunting. The pass was a little off its mark, and that opens the door for the Minnesota Wild to take over. They turn the puck back over. Lars Eller able to take it. Some good offensive zone time here for the Penguins, but not getting any opportunities. Michael Bunting behind the net. He finds Eller. Eller up top, gives it to Marcus Pettersson. He's not going to make the same mistake twice. Sends it over to St. Ivany. St. Ivany in the middle of the ice to Rickard Rakell. The man with the golden stick almost gets the puck in the back of the net. Rakell has some space. Sends it over to Eller. Eller shot. Oh, no. Marc-Andre Fleury with shades of 2009 diving to make the shoulder save. And we have 1:43 remaining as the puck squirts harmlessly into the Penguins' defensive zone. Here come the big boys. Kris Letang circling behind his own net. 1:30. What did I say? Here comes Joel Blomqvist, and the net is empty for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Oh, that was a grade A opportunity earlier for Rickard Rakell and the Pittsburgh Penguins with that second line on the ice. They shoot it from down the ice, and that's going to be they say redirected. I thought that was shot as an icing, but instead they say it's tipped. The Penguins have to take it from their own zone. Erik Karlsson sends it into the zone. Who's going to get there? Jonas Brodin is first on the puck for the Wild, but he's crashed into by several Pittsburgh Penguins. Evgeni Malkin falls to the ice, not able to contain the puck. Who has it? Malkin is without a stick. It looks like it's broken. He has to head to the bench to get another one. That's not a good sign for the Penguins. Kirill Kaprizov sends it out. Malkin is back there after getting his new twig. Pens send it back into the zone. They got to set up here. 44 seconds remaining, running out of time. Minnesota Wild take it. They send it down the length of the ice. That looks like it could be on track, but not enough steam to get in here. Erik Karlsson trying to get back into this one. 29 seconds remain. Jacob Middleton takes the puck. He misplays it. An opportunity maybe for the Penguins, not able to handle it. Michael Bunting plays it poorly. That puck sent down by Kirill Kaprizov into the empty net, and it is 6 consecutive losses for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Kirill Kaprizov, I said the Penguins held him in check for a large portion of this game. Marc-Andre Fleury is all smiles, as he should be. He is going to win his final appearance at PPG Paints Arena. That puck, so close to beating him. And Lars Eller, I mean, that is going to be the lasting image of this one. The lasting image of Marc-Andre Fleury in his Pittsburgh finale is diving across. Different side. He's diving to his left and not to his right, but diving across to rob Lars Eller and close things out for the now 6-1-2 Minnesota Wild. 6 consecutive losses for the Penguins. Another game where they allow 40-plus shots on goal, and it's all over but the crying in Pittsburgh. Marc-Andre Fleury, and what was an emotional night for him, he said it was going to be an emotional night, is going to come away victorious with his second. You can already see he's starting to cheer up as he's getting a standing ovation from the Pittsburgh faithful. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. And again, like I mentioned, all over but the crying. Well, it's a nice moment for Marc-Andre Fleury. And as somebody who loved Marc-Andre Fleury growing up, happy for him. But on a larger scale, things continue to get worse for the team that drafted him. Penguins have lost 6 straight, falling 5-3 to the Minnesota Wild. I will say, a lot of pushback in that third period. Love to see it. You saw the first line flying around the ice all night long. I like that addition. I like that move by Mike Sullivan. I would say that night one, it worked. Crosby gets 3 points. You get him back on the score sheet. He looked more effective. He looked more engaged in the game. Evgeni Malkin looked to have his legs. The bottom nine, I thought, started out slow. I thought that they kind of rose to the challenge as the game wore on, and they obviously pushed really well in that third period. Shout out goes to Mike Vellucci's group in that penalty kill. 3 massive kills back to back to back, including a handful of 5-on-3 time in the midway point of that third period. But this Penguins team, same flaws. When you get a lead, you got to play better defense. They got a 2-goal lead, and then they give up 4 consecutive goals. Looks like Marc-Andre Fleury is about to take a victory lap. Now he's just going over to meet his former teammates. A couple hockey goalie hugs from Kris Letang and from Sidney Crosby. Standing ovation. One last victory lap for Marc-Andre Fleury in the city of Pittsburgh. A great moment for a great Penguin. I will say that again, but it's hard to underscore a performance like this when the Pittsburgh Penguins needed it so desperately. Oh, they're going to be fighting. They're going to be fighting over that stick. Definitely was meant to go to the lady in the Fleury jersey. All right, the right person got it. That's what we like to see. That's what we like to see. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, as we round out this tip of the iceberg watch-along, they rounded out with a 5-3 loss. Crosby better. Joel Blomqvist once again solid in a game where he was absolutely shelled, and the Penguins fall short for a 6th consecutive loss, this one in regulation to the Minnesota Wild. Let's go to the comment section here and grab any other questions that you guys had before we say goodbye for today. Earthquake Jake says, how much is Kris Letang being paid? Yeah, he's currently being paid $6.1 million. You're hoping that he can start to play up to that level a little bit sooner. A lot of thank you flowers. Good on Flower from Brandon Rickner. Christopher Hart says, thank you, Flower. Brian says, I got to go for a walk. When you said 88 shots in 2 games, it ruined my night. I'm so sorry, Brian. But listen, I want to make sure you're in the know. It's not the last 2 games, at least. It's just the last 2 that Joel Blomqvist has faced. And for a 22-year-old to have a .909 save percentage when getting shelled for 88 shots with 2 of the better offensive teams in the NHL, you got to give a little bit of credit there to Joel Blomqvist. Anything else that we have here? Let's see. I see some people saying get rid of Dubas. I mean, that's hardly the bulk majority of their issues right now. Let's not forget the person that put the Penguins in the situation that Dubas took over, that he had. Let's see. Anything else? I think that's it. Like I mentioned at the start of this show, and we've mentioned all week long, this is just the beginning of Watch Along Week. Yes, I'm going to put myself through this torture again later this week on Halloween night. Penguins take on the Anaheim Ducks. We will be back here on Tip of the Iceberg on YouTube, following along. Penguins versus Ducks. Maybe they end the losing streak that day, right? Maybe they do it against the Anaheim Ducks. Maybe they do it against a team that wears orange and gold on Halloween night. That's what we're hoping for. Will we see the same lineup? Maybe. I mean, with Sid getting 3 assists, maybe you see the same lineup. I would venture to guess that you see Alex Nedeljkovic in net in that one. But that is going to do it for this watch-along edition of the Tip of the Iceberg. Thank you guys so much for tuning in all night long. It's been a blast getting to talk with you guys. It's been a blast watching this game with you guys despite the losing effort. And it will be a blast on Thursday as well. But that's it for this one. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to our channel at Tip of the Iceberg on YouTube. Or if you'd like, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcast from. We'll see you guys next time.